Thank you. See a show of hands that you did receive a copy of the check register. Thank you. Okay, now we have, next item is public comments. Please hold it to 4 minutes. The agenda looks pretty heavy tonight. So, Mr. Quick.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Just here tonight for the two special event applications that filed with the city clerk. One is for our downtown trick-or-treating or spooktacular, which will be Friday, October 31st from 1 to 5. We're not closing the street or anything else for that, but just wanted to have that filed with the city so that you have awareness of the event. We would ask for some additional police support to help with the kids in their costumes running across the street here or there. So that would be possible. Outstanding, given council approval, of course.
So move
Second.
Thompson. Second. Any questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
The second event is for our downtown beer and barbecue, which will be November 6th. We will be closing Courthouse Square for that. It'll run from 5 to 9. November 6th, it's a Thursday.
Motion.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Tackett, second by Mr. Penn. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
David? Mr. Williamson? There's J.O.
Good. Good to see you.
Long time no see.
Been a while.
Well, you know, I used to recycle, and I'm still recycling. A few weeks ago, I went out to the recycling center to pick up some boxes to empty out my mom's house, and you can no longer pick up boxes. Did that for 20-some years. I'm hoping you all can revisit that to where we can go out and pick up boxes. It's not a real hard process. They can either stack them or put them in the baler. I just asked for you all to reconsider it. Mayor, did you get the letter from the judge?
I did. I got that.
So it's picking up cardboard boxes?
What you do is if you're moving and you've got a family member that's moving, rather than having to go to the store, see, back in the old days before you didn't have a recycling center, you had to go to the grocery stores or whatever. Well, most of those recycle and bail them now, so that avenue is pretty much dried up.
Yeah.
So when we used to go out there, when we brought them in, rather than putting them in the baler, that size that people normally use, we just stack them up, and when people came and asked for them, the guys out there would give them to you. And it was a pretty good program. You know, I think it cost us like $50 to go buy the boxes this time just to box up ours, so it's an economic savings to the family members of the community. Just thought that you all would revisit that. I know you're going through some changes out there, so.
Yeah, we had, that was reported to us, that was going on. I can tell you now, I never knew anything about any boxes going out. And in our handbook, anything goes into the recycling center is recycled. It becomes the property of the city, and employees can't give the city's property away.
Oh,
I mean, that's what made us go back to the handbook. It was called in that that was going on out there.
well, when I used to go into the schools, I used to teach them recycling was 3 R's. You reduce, you reuse, and you recycle. Anything a community could reuse, it was reused. You know, that was the way the program was set up, and we ran it that way for a number of years. I've been retired for about 3.5 years now, thank God, but anyway.
Not the way it's written up in the handbook.
But anyway, if you all would reconsider it, I sure would
That's up to the
appreciate it.
council, because they approved the handbook.
All it is somebody goes in, you need a box, they hand it to you. It's already folded up. It's a service to the community. You know, I read your all sign when I came into this community. It says where progress and tradition meets. What tradition was, we used to help each other in this community. And that's all I'm asking you to do is help the citizens of this community once again.
So the boxes were already folded up?
Yeah, all folded up,
All folded up.
sitting right there, laying
I'll put it
right
on,
there.
I mean, I'll be glad to put it on the agenda next time for discussion. But
You need to take a look at it because it is a handbook item.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll take a look at it. If you can get a copy of that page, you all cite
Okay.
it and put it in the next packet, and I'll sponsor the item. As far as,
That change.
if it
If I
doesn't,
need to be here for the,
I guess, if you want to.
Would be a
I
good
mean, if you want to.
well, you know, I was just looking around you all. I'm a native of this community. I look around, there's a bunch of you all that's been here all your lives. You know, so let's don't regress. Let's progress through this community.
Come back, it might help us make sense.
I doubt that. Thank you.
Thanks, JR.
JR, still JR.
That's me.
That's
I thought I could get this worked out and not have to come here, but it didn't work out. Thank you.
Ms. Nowak?
So, I came to address council today about the changing in jobs, or I guess pay
Kelly,
grade
just a
status.
moment, would you pull that down, stand? Okay. it's
Okay,
awfully
is that better?
high.
I came to address council concerning the pay grade, I guess, pay grades of two positions. One of them is for the HR's specialist position, I guess is what it's being upgraded to. First of all, as I read over the job description, to me, the only educational background required is a high school degree. And it sounds like her secretary, honestly. And I was looking at a suggested pay rate of a grade 8 when our officers and all of our emergency personnel get a pay grade 6 or less, and the dispatchers get a pay grade 5. They all require licensing, certification, and training in order to hold their positions. And then number two, another point is that at a pay grade 8, a secretary is getting paid better than 75% of all city employees. I think, personally, I kind of took it as a slap in the face to our emergency personnel, because that's saying that a secretary who doesn't put their life on the line every day, going out, deserves to get better pay. And what I found even more concerning when I contacted city council members, I agree with Ms. Tackett on so many things, but we just simply could not agree on this. And what bothered me about it, our conversation, was that what she had told me was that they knew the pay that they were going to receive when they took the position offered to them. And I agree with that. I do know that. But to have such a disparity between the two positions and all other positions seems egregious, because these people, they make their sacrifices to work in the careers and the professions that they work in. They sacrifice their mental health, their physical health, and they put their lives on the line when they go out there. And to say to them, you deserve to get paid less than even a secretary, because you knew the pay going into the door, I have a problem with that. And I just, it's hard for me to say that. And the response was, well, they don't put their line on, their life on the line every day. Well, I'm here to tell you they do. I had my uncle, he died in a fire. He was a firefighter. The building collapsed on him. And his son grew up without a father. Those police officers out there, one of them has been shot in the Georgetown Police Department. 2 of them had guns put in their face and the triggers pulled. They misfired. They never know what they're going to go on when they take a call. They never know the situation that's going to come around. And they do put their lives on the line every day. And they understand, they have a passion and a love for their positions. They love their jobs. That's why they go out there and they, see terrible things. They have to deal with horrible situations. And that's the sacrifice that they make for their community to serve it. It's not, oh, well, I knew what I was going to get paid when I walked in the door. And, I guess Ms. Tackett felt, I guess, offended because I ended up, she kind of felt, and I can understand as city council, you don't get a lot of praise. You hear people's problems. And I really want to change that. I'm going to make a better effort at giving some praise to city council when they do great things. However, at the same time, okay, was that the beep? I'm done?
That's the
Okay,
beep.
that's it.
We'll be looking at that later on in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Price?
I'm Stephen Price. I live at 167 Rucker Avenue in Georgetown. You got a letter from Attorney Hartley, I think earlier, sometime, I don't know, recently, saying, basically what it says is that, that I have to get off my property within, letter was written October the 6th, that I have to get anything you consider rubbish, which I consider to be horticultural equipment, horticultural produce. I consider it valuable material that I have salvaged. I have done a hero's job of accumulating material that would wind up in the landfill. J.R. Williamson was just here asking you to help him with his recycling efforts. I have done a hero's job of salvaging lumber, glass, and firewood on my property, and Attorney Hartley considers it rubbish. And I'm asking you, if you want it to go, I can dispose of it if I have time. You notified me on the 6th that I have to get rid of it, and he's telling me that they're coming Wednesday with a bulldozer to haul it to the landfill. That's not recycling. I can dispose of the material. If you don't want it there and I have to move it at your order, I can dispose of the material if you would give me 30 days. No landlord can evict a tenant from the 6th until Wednesday would be the 15th. That's 9 days. I'm asking you for time, for at least a month, for me to contact people who will take the material. I will give it away. I was going to use it, maybe. When I got around out of all this litigation, I would probably have used it. But I am perfectly willing to give it away. And if you broke your agreement with me last fall. I agreed to hire a landscape contractor to mow vegetation which you consider to be in violation. I hired Jeff Singer. You deal with Jeff Singer all the time. Jeff said we could do it. I said we're going to use hand tools. He said that's fine. He bought new hand tools to mow with because I don't make noise. Again, I comply with Chapter 224-30-100 and 165, which says noise is a hazard and should be abated. Now, using hand tools, I have managed my place over there for years without making any noise. I hired Jeff Singer in compliance with my agreement with Mr. Hartley. And Mr. Hartley, when he asked Singer, how's it going? Singer told him, well, it's slow for me because we're used to doing it quick with machines. We've been using hand tools. But Singer agreed. And Hartley said, you said that I violated my agreement with him because I didn't specify machinery. I've got the agreement right here. It doesn't say anything about machinery. So he says, this was on October the 23rd, on the 28th, he said, we're coming over 5 days later, and we're going to do it with machinery. And I had already mowed a good acre altogether at the front and the back where it would show from the street. And they mowed all over it. He went right over it with a bush hog as though I had not even mowed it and billed me for it. Although I had paid Jeff Singer $380 already to help me mow it. Y'all have done me wrong. And I'm going to ask you, if I have to get that material off my property, to give me 30 days at least to do so. And because I was complying with your requirements about bringing my house to code until you tried to force me, until you came over there and took my woodlot away. And after that, was that 4 minutes?
Yes.
I'm asking you for some...
We're not here to argue with you tonight. How many times have you been turned down in court? How many times?
Are the courts infallible? I'm going to tell you, I saw Judge Isaac...
That's why we have to go. I'm not going to argue. That's why we go by the law. We listen to our judges when they make decisions.
Yeah, well, don't believe everything that the judges say. I'm telling you that they dismissed a case on violation of a 2-year violation of the statute of limitations. I wasn't claiming a 2-year violation. Judge Isaacs didn't want to hear the case, if you want to know the truth.
Mayor, can I ask Andrew a quick question?
Yes.
I know it's a sensitive subject, but I also know how compassionate you are and the rest of this body is. And Andrew, you probably know the question coming. I mean, does this body have the ability to grant that latitude? I don't know exactly where it is. I mean, is it not being? Yeah.
Well, first question is whether you have the ability to grant it. I mean, I think it's in the province of the executive body, but if the council wants to do otherwise, we're not going to argue with it. I am going to say that I've spoken to Mr. Price on a number of occasions. I talked to him for an hour and a half on the phone today, and I explained to him that this is not the first time he's offered time. Give me more time. We've been giving him more time for quite some time now. Unfortunately, I think we're beyond that point. I did discuss with Mr. Price a number of negotiating points that we might have, albeit, they're not as favorable as they once were, because unfortunately we've had numerous agreements with him in the past that he has broken, and I disagree with him when he says that we broke that. We gave him a very specific list of things to do and a very specific time period to do it in, and he did not do it. We have been around and around and around with Mr. Price, and I'm sorry we have given him quite a few latitudes, and I'm sorry to say that he simply has not delivered on those. And if he wants 30 days to get that stuff, I told him today that we were coming out there to remove that junk, and the only thing in this entire world that was going to stop that is if he went and he hired a moving company to move that stuff himself. I don't think that's unreasonable. I could probably pick up the phone right now and find 10 different moving companies that would be willing to come in and do it. Now, it's going to cost a lot, but guess what? It's going to cost us a lot, too. And
I think the people on Rucker have suffered long enough.
Well, they have, and that's another point. I mean, we've
And-
certainly heard from
we're
them
going
over the
2+
years.
years.
Yeah, okay. Well, I want to throw it out there.
Go ahead. We'll listen to the council.
I'm not, I just want to get your take on it, and certainly Andrew's take on it. And I think as much as anything, I mean, Mr. Price, made his presentation, and sometimes the general public just hears that, and they think, well, how in the world could the council and the mayor and the city attorney not be more compassionate? And there's two sides to that story, and I guess that's part of what I wanted Andrew to elaborate on, and which he did. And I know there's
stage we couldn't be more passionate.
right.
What's the address of the property?
159 Rucker Avenue.
And I think that's, and I don't want to cut you off, Mark, but that's one of the issues, is that the notice that we were given, that Mr. Price was given from our city attorney's office, outlines the 4 properties that Mr. Price owns, and sort of a chronological summary of the facts of all 4 properties, but we're simply talking about the one property that is not the main residence at 159 Rucker. Even Mr. Price stated he lives at 167, not 159. Even though some of his comments here were about other properties and other materials.
But the debris is on all 4 properties.
The debris is on all 4 properties. But the notice that we were given, the legal notice, had to do specifically with the demolition of 159
But it's
Rucker.
the demo of 159, but it's the abatement of all 4 properties.
Okay.
Yeah, well, like I said, the main thing I guess I wanted the folks that might be listening to know, or the folks that might be here right now to know, is that there's been a very long chain of events and a lot of latitude.
4 or
has been
5 years,
given.
more.
Yeah.
No, it's been more than that.
More than
This
that.
has been almost 10 years.
That's just the recent history that I've gone back. You're right, it goes back at least 10 years.
And I think to what David is saying, we want to make sure that people don't understand that we're given, a 9-day lead time to get a problem corrected, that this has been a long-term issue.
Long-term.
Very long-term
Yes, and I've been here for a year and a half, and that's probably the at least third notice that I've given him of the same impending action. And from one reason or another, either, he comes up with another challenge in court, or something happens. But we did make a major move last year, but we didn't move on the junk. But we've litigated and litigated, and we've noticed, and he cannot possibly argue in any sense of the word that he has not been notified properly of this.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say.
But the house that we're talking about, the house we're,
I wanted to speak on Mr. Price's behalf. I'm a newly retained attorney. I'm new to this whole situation. I'm very sympathetic for his.
She's on the agenda tonight. I mean, she's
Right.
on the list here. So go ahead, Ms. Melton, please.
Okay. And I've discussed this very thoroughly with him. He understands that, he's had lots of chances. He does believe that within the next 30 days he can get everything removed. I could file a motion or try to get an injunction. I don't want to do that. I guess I came here hoping that you guys would be compassionate, give him a little more time. And then with this being the absolute final opportunity that you would give him.
I want to say one thing,
Okay.
just because the record needs to be set straight. He has already twice sought an injunction and been denied it.
I'm aware of that.
So you can seek another injunction, that's fine. If this body wants to give him 30 days, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with it. 30 days is 30 days. But he needs to know that the problem is that he has a fundamental misunderstanding, or we have a difference of opinion as to what compliance with the ordinances is. And I don't believe when he says he will remove that stuff, that he actually will. So, fine, I'll give him 30 days. I'm willing to do it. I'll give you 30 days to get the stuff off of there. But in 30 days, we're coming by, and what's there is going to get hauled away. And that's just...
You're gonna have to get in compliance with the ordinance. We expect everyone else to do that.
Absolutely not.
I understand. I'm just saying I'm willing to do it. If council doesn't want to do it, then I mean...
Well, you know, as you said, Karen, though, this has been going on for 10 years, and we've never got anything accomplished through Mr. Price.
No, we haven't.
And there was injunctions when I was mayor before. It would be,
I mean, if they
we'd
want to
start
file an
making
injunction
moves
that-
and then go to court and stop it for a few days and start making a move and go to court. So,
But I think,
Now speaking, Mr. Thompson, you asked me to put a roof on the house last fall. I put a roof on the house. You asked me to electrify the house. I electrified the house. You asked me to get a plumber to certify that the water closets work. I did that. You have all that receipts. You have copies of the receipts. You have a copy of an affidavit from the plumber. I did what you told me to do. Once Judge Isaacs ruled against me and Hartley told me you're going to have to comply now, I began to comply. But I did not ask Jeff Singer to use machinery. I didn't say that my agreement doesn't call for machinery. I said, come on over here, Jeff, bring your helpers. We will do this by hand. And when Harley heard about it, he brings the backhoe to destroy my crops and my woodlot. And at that point, I lost interest in continuing. I was working with him to rehab my house. And you cannot say that I have not that I've done nothing, because you can.
I'm talking about all the trash and stuff that's sitting
It's not
outside.
trash.
Well, the stuff that you.
We're not gonna argue the point. And Steve, please, when you address him, would you call him Mr. Hartley? We call you Mr. Price. He deserves that.
That's what you like, yeah.
Yes, sir.
You don't have, you don't have to call me Mr. Price.
Well-
That's fine, I'll call you Mr. Harley, Mr. Mayor Barney, in fact.
and if I could just,
Once Judge Isaacs ruled against me on June 20th of last year, you sent me a letter telling me I had to comply. I said, okay, I will comply. But when you didn't comply by hammering me with a backhoe, I lost interest in saving my house. And I would like to save my house.
We came to an agreement, Mr. Price, that you would have the abatement done yourself by a date certain. You failed to meet that obligation. I said nothing to you about the manner in which you could do it. Unfortunately,
Let's stop here. Council, what is your pleasure? We need to
can I
move
make
on.
one final comment? I'm sorry, I didn't get to finish what I was saying earlier. All I wanted
Go
to
ahead.
say was that I believe that with my assistance, working with you, Mr. Hartley, I think that we can make sure that he gets in compliance. I can make sure that he's doing everything he's supposed to do. And that is really all I wanted to say.
Ms. Melton, you have gone up and looked at that property, haven't
I have. I went earlier this
you?
week.
Okay. You think you can get it done in 30 days?
I believe that we can.
We're talking about cleaning up the property and also the demolition of
I mean,
one.
get it in compliance
property
with
Well,
well, that's
the
the question. I
ordinance.
don't know. I mean, what is 30 days to do? 30 days to do
Well,
what?
But I'm not,
Is to complete all of the work that needs to be done.
but what we're talking about right now is cleaning up and, I guess, demolishing the property at 159, and he lives at 167, is that right?
There are three things that have to happen. The rubbish has to be removed. The overgrowth, the vegetative growth has to be cut back. And the house either has to be brought to code, and there is a list of items that must be completed, or the house needs to be demolished at 159. But the rubbish is on all four properties, and we're talking multiple piles of lumber and metal and you name it. There's an old tractor, there are boats, there are torn down sheds. You know, we're talking about several trips to the landfill.
Did
Full
Mr. Price
of,
say that the ruling was June of last year?
which ruling?
June 20.
Which one you?
Of last
Depends-
year?
There were two cases, so it depends on which case you're
Okay,
talking
the
about.
most recent case that Mr. Price lost. What was the most recent case?
June 2013.
That's right.
No, well, he
Circuit
had,
Court.
the most recent ruling was, I believe, in July of this year when the Court of Appeals, when the Kentucky Supreme Court denied his appeal in the first case. The case that he sued us on.
So they said, we're not going to read it.
He sued us when we came up with that first plan of abatement. When we said, all right, we won't abate, he sued us, claiming he had horticultural exemption, and that has now been all the way through the court system. And we also sued him in a declaratory action in which he claimed that exemption, and that is currently awaiting review in the Court of Appeals.
Right, but Attorney Hart,
Is-
as I told you, or as I wrote to you, I have the option to appeal.
You do not,
the
Mr. Price.
denial of discretionary review.
You do
to the
not,
U.S.
Mr.
Supreme
Price.
Court. And until November the 13th, I can file that they review the dismissal of discretionary, of the denial of discretionary review. In other words, they can send the case back to the Kentucky Supreme Court. And that is still, so my appeals are not
I
exhausted.
don't think he does.
But I don't want to ask you to wait for this appeals process for me to comply. I'm willing to comply while the appeals process is going on, because I'm more interested in saving my house and my property than I am in winning the court back.
But I think that the point is, though, that appeals process started in June of last year.
No,
I don't-
within 30 days,
you-
June the 20th.
So July the 20th,
But that's the second case. To the first case.
but that's the appeals process.
Of the second case, yeah. But
Okay.
the first case is still subject to review by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Again,
Mark, got it.
Mr. Melton.
I'm
Is-
done. May I be excused?
Mr. Hartley, can I ask
Hold
you a
on, I
question?
think Mark had his hand up
Mark,
first.
I'm sorry.
No, my question, I mean, Mr. Price commented about the repairs and the compliance that had been followed with the house, but which address was not stated? Is that 167 where the roof has been added and electric has been added?
No,
No, that's
That
159.
is 159, okay.
I won't deny that he is.
Not all the roof, because about the time I got the roof halfway done is when you stole my woodlot. And I was working with a
I just wanted to clarify which,
to
but
get the whole
partial.
roof done. Until then,
Electric.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Actually, for any of us sitting up here on the council, it really doesn't make a difference whether we give him 30 days or we don't give him 30 days, and it has been going on and off for 10 years. But I did see one of his neighbors come in. They're the ones that have to deal with this
Agreed.
in a positive or a negative light. So I'd like to ask them, what do you all want? Do you want to give him another 30 days, or do you want us to lay the hammer down because we've been working on it for 10 years?
Because it's affecting you all more than it is anybody else. in the
That's right.
community.
Mayor, may he approach? May he approach,
So you wish.
Yes.
You like that, yeah?
if he'd care to?
Mayor, Council, I'm Bill Corkins, at 154 Rucker Avenue, and I brought with me just a few pictures of my lot, not his. I have 3 properties across from him, and we've been remodeling for a long time. But as you look at these pictures, you'll see photos of the backyard of all 3 lots. Of the orchard that I have back there with 20 trees, the fruit bushes of about 30 different kind, and my garden spot. I do produce my family garden back there. And Mr. Price claims to be a horticulturist, and you can't walk on his place. Mine you can. And in my place, I find possum. We had 3 of them that I caught this year. The mother possum was having birth in my cage. And that wasn't the 2 babies that I caught too. We caught over 20 squirrel. That's Georgetown. I mean, you got squirrels. I understand. But they were eating my crops, so I was catching them, sending them out to Cedarville. Sorry, folks.
Hunters get them.
So, all of us feel that Steve has been given more than abundant enough time. Every time that he is given time, he does something, gets a little more time. Steve is a very intelligent man. I've sat on his porch, and I have learned things from Steve. And I've talked with him. But in the last few years, that hasn't been happening. I try to say hi, and he just goes on down the road, or he screams and hollers at me for something. We have people on our street who are leaving because of him. We have people on our street scared of him because we don't know what he's going to be like the next day we see him. Being up here in front of you is a scary thing for me to be tonight because of him. So, I mean, the final decision is yours, but I think you've already got the paperwork done. Not just the paperwork you've given to him this week, but the paperwork that's been written over the years. And he keeps coming up with thoughts, innuendos. He's accused me of being the person that's done all this to him. I have not. But anyway, this is for you to look at, you to take care of. I've been your neighbor now for over 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Corkins told me that he was trying to ruin me because he wanted my house from me.
Steve.
That's what he told
Mayor.
me.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just think, I'll just say this real quick. If we give him 30 days, we're just going to be back here again in 30 days. I don't see any reason to give him any more time.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I would agree with Mr. Singer. And if it comes down to making a motion to go ahead and proceed and supporting you and our city attorney and what you've already done for well over a year and a half, I will support that. And if we're looking for a motion, I will make the motion to go ahead and proceed.
The council doesn't need the motion because
No.
we would need the motion if we weren't going
Then
to do it.
I think we move forward.
It's fine.
Do I have a second?
No, we don't.
We're not
We
doing
don't
that.
need it.
You don't need to? Okay, good deal. All right. Then we'll move forward on Wednesday. Okay. Mr. Snyder? I hope I got that right. Tim?
Thank you for your time. My name is Tim Schindler. I'm the youth pastor at Georgetown Baptist.
I was way off there.
That's all right. That's all right. I would like to bring an hopefully easy thing for you. I've been here the last couple of years and just requesting road closure for the Georgetown Baptist Church neighborhood event for Trunk or Treat. This year will be held Wednesday, October 29th. And we'd like to request road closure on South Hamilton Street from the intersection of College Street to Jackson Street between the hours of 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. that evening.
Motion, Mayor.
Second.
Motion and the second.
Okay, filled out an event form?
Is there an event form to fill out?
Yes.
Is this new?
It's kind of new, yes.
Okay. Be happy to fill it out, but I just was doing what I've done the last few years, so I will fill that out and I guess submit it online.
Actually, you can get it online, yes, and you can submit it online.
Is that the best way to do
That
that?
would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any problems, just give us a call here at City Hall.
All right, thank you very
Glad
much.
to do that. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving down to the mayor's comments, I have just one, and I didn't think I was going to have one tonight. The city attorney thought he was going to pull a fast one on the staff, and he wasn't able to do that. Last week during the Kentucky League of Cities conference in Louisville, our city attorney was elected president of the Municipal Attorneys Association of Kentucky. And also, he was appointed to the Legislative Board of KLC. So again, he was trying to sneak that by. He didn't want the recognition, and I think he's brought recognition on our city. And I certainly want to recognize him for that tonight and congratulate him.
Thank you.
He has also assured me that these two appointments will not interfere with his duties here. So I'm going to hold him to that also. But I do want to congratulate him, and we're very, very proud of that honor. Okay. That's the only thing I have. City Attorney, City Clerk, second reading of Personnel Ordinance, sponsored by Ms. Tackett. Whoa. Do we have an honor here tonight? I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
More recognition for our city.
I am Brianna Carroll. I am here on behalf of the Kentucky League of Cities, and I would like to thank you for letting me come this evening, and to thank you for being a member city of the league. Congratulations, Mr. Hartley. Each year, our board of directors selects a few legislators to recognize for their outstanding service. A couple years ago, we were here to recognize Senator Thayer. This year, we are here to recognize Representative Ryan Quarles. Our board of directors has selected him for being a champion for cities. He works in a bipartisan manner and is someone we know we can count on. He filed House Bill 367, which provided clarity to the voting process and allowed us to include language to help cities across the state who elect to have wards in their jurisdictions. With his help, we were able to pass another KLC initiative. He also co-sponsors several pieces of legislation, including our number one priority, which is modernizing the city classification system. He is a humble man, and we are proud to honor him. Representative Quarles. Would you come down for a photo?
Andrew, don't do those rabbit ears.
No, I'm kidding.
Good job, Brian.
Honor well deserved.
I just wanted to say very quickly, thank you for this recognition from KLC. And this piece of legislation, as many of you all know, is much bigger than one legislator. The idea actually came from members of this community, and I always called it the Vote for 8 bill, but we changed that language to make it more clarifying and accurate, where you don't have to vote for 8, but up to 8. And I know I've talked, I think, with everyone on the council about this, including with the support of the mayor, and we were able to get this bill passed unanimously this past session. And as a result, every ballot in the Commonwealth of Kentucky is changed for the better this fall. And I think that's how legislative process should work. So we built a coalition, and with your help, we helped make a change here in Georgetown and across the state. So thank you very much, and thank you for the recognition. And if you ever need anything when it comes to cities, if it's good, call me. If it's bad, call Tyler Campbell. He lives here in Georgetown. He'll relate the message to me. So thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Tyler, it's good to see you here tonight.
Thanks, Mayor Brad.
Good to have you. Okay, now we're ready, Megan. Second reading of personnel ordinance sponsored by Ms. Tackett.
I'm here just in case you have any questions before we go on with the second reading.
Read, and then we'll see if there's any questions.
An ordinance amending Section 2-111, subsection G of the Code of Ordinances to establish and remove certain positions. Summary. amend Section 2-111 subsection C of the Code of Ordinances, which sets forth the classifications, associated pay grades, and authorized positions for each department to, 1, abolish the position of legal HR assistant, grade 7, to establish the position of human resource specialist, grade 8, to abolish the position of payroll administrator, grade 8, and to establish the position of finance legal specialist, grade 7, all within the general government department, and 2, to create the position of crew leader, grade 6, to abolish the 10 positions of sanitation worker driver, grade 5, to abolish the position of maintenance worker, grade 4, to increase the number of sanitation worker, grade 4 positions from 3 to 6, and to increase the number of sanitation driver, grade 5 positions from 1 to 8, all within the sanitation department. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read the first time September 22nd, 2014, publicly read the second time October 13th, 2014.
Okay. Motion for approval.
Motion, Mayor.
Ms. Tackett,
Second.
second by Mr. Singer. Any discussion now before we have a roll call vote?
Yeah, I'm going to vote against it personally because I think it's too close to the election. There's a 50-50 chance the mayor's position may change. And for sure, though, the council is going to change. And I think you're making enough of a overall change in the departments that it needs to be done with the new, either the current mayor or the future mayor's vision and the new council's vision. So I'm voting no against it. I think it should wait until after the election or at least after January.
Current payroll specialist, or the previous payroll specialist, who's since been promoted. What was her grade when she was doing the payroll work?
Grade 8.
Grade 8. And this makes the payroll specialist a grade 7, is that correct?
No. It would stay at a grade 8.
Stay at a grade 8, I'm sorry.
This rolls payroll into the HR specialist position. This person is definitely so much more than my secretary. 50%, if not more, of their job is doing payroll, which is a very time-consuming and a very time-pressing, a very confidential, a very sensitive, and a very knowledgeable position, and it's very specifically trained. So that's why the grade 8 position ranking stays with it.
And as a payroll specialist, any person doing payroll has to learn the job from that particular position. In other words, if they go from one company to another, payrolls will change. So that's the reason we're not asking for a college degree.
That's correct. In working in HR for almost 14 years now, I've yet to work with a payroll administrator who has been college degreed. So it's not a function that we need. It's not a characteristic that we need as part of the function, actually. So it was not put in that job description.
We've talked about this, discussed this.
The question that Mark just asked, was he asking about the previous payroll administrator versus the finance and legal specialist?
Perhaps. This change is different enough that when Linda Wise was in the position, she was payroll administrator and she worked on grants. We had a finance legal specialist, and that's a position that we're abolishing. So this is really just a complete redistribution of tasks. So payroll and HR specialist, HR assisting, will go into one position. Grants, purchasing, and legal assisting goes into the other position.
Fair enough.
And I'll remind you, the good thing about it was that with the changes in staff, the reorganization of duties, it does save us approximately $14,500 in the budget.
That's City Hall's budget, but not
Right.
Sanitation's budget?
Right.
Okay. Are we currently outsourcing payroll now?
ADP, we process in-house with ADP.
So I thought, okay. Because that duty changed drastically when you start going.
Yeah,
There's still some things you have to continue to do.
Right.
But still, a lot of that's being outsourced. So there's less now in that responsibility than there was
There
several
is
years
less than
ago.
there used to be, and we hope that as we continue to get pieces of ADP implemented, as our IT improvements are made, that it will become less and less and less. I would like that because right now, as I said, payroll is taking up much more than 50% of her time. Payroll is probably taking up 75% of her time at the moment. So everything else that she was doing for us is pretty much on hold.
And Linda
But,
so graciously has continued to come back.
Oh, yeah, Linda's down at
to
least
help with
once or
payroll.
twice a week to just help us keep things moving and sorted and going in the right direction.
Megan, I don't think it was mentioned a moment ago, and maybe, we all, I guess, realize, but that there's no new positions being created
No.
in terms of personnel. And
No,
you
no.
just stated, which I think is pretty important, there's actually going to be a reduction in the overall payroll, at least in this department.
Yes.
What about as far as the public works?
The sanitation changes are probably just going to be a complete wash because there will be obviously a little additional pay in that crew leader position
Right.
and a little less pay taken out by eliminating that maintenance worker position.
Okay.
So we'll now have workers and drivers separated. The pay differences will be there.
Anything else?
Right.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Did somebody say wait?
Hmm?
Did you say wait?
I'm sorry.
Nobody said anything.
Mr. McEwen said something.
Kelly, you still?
The savings is due to tenure.
Yes.
Mhm. In a lot of ways. The person leaving the payroll administration job had been there for, I think it was 16 years.
Right.
So that salary was up to a little more than $52,000 annually. The new position would pay at approximately $40,000 annually.
Okay.
And then the person we would look to hire would come in at $35,000.
And we're completely eliminating the worker driver.
Yes. A long time, actually 3 years ago, when I first got here and Linda Wise was working in payroll, and I don't think it was anywhere on the horizon of knowing that she'd be going to the Sanitation Public Works Department. I remember her saying then that she remembered a day when at Public Works it seemed to keep more peace amongst the ranks when those men were separated by level. If you're hired to be a worker, you know you're a worker, and you can be at peace with the fact that you're a worker and you're not going to be asked to drive here and there if you're uncomfortable with that. If you don't want to get a CDL, you don't want to drive, you don't have to, you can still work for us. But if you want to promote yourself, or if you want to come to us with a CDL and be paid more to be a driver and be responsible for a truck, this enables you to do that instead of everybody being classified together.
Right.
Because when everyone was a sanitation worker driver in the same grade, and we hired everyone in with a CDL, those CDL drivers would come in, get stuck on the back of the truck, and then be very unhappy for a long period of time. So that's why she wants to make these changes now.
I guess my biggest concern with this, I don't have as much concern about the change within general government and those two positions. I understand that through the questions that the public and the staff have answered. But I think my biggest concern is in sanitation and just the fact that we're not, I feel like we tried to make some changes there, but we've sort of given up on maybe a long-term sort of strategic idea and where we're going with sanitation. So that, my only concern is that again, with how we handle sanitation and how we're not recycling curbside, is that we're digressing. But I absolutely understand the justification of separating worker and driver. So this is for me, this is a very difficult vote, simply because we're not looking at where we want to go long-term with sanitation. It is a short-term fix. It will help our employees. So that just makes it difficult. I don't feel like there's a right answer. There's
Right.
not a right vote. I feel like I'm making the wrong decision either way. And so,
Well, I guess I would say we could hope, if nothing else, it could help improve the morale of the employees that are there, so that we can hope to hold on to some of the workers that are doing a really good job for us, and ensure that they're there when we do try to move on to the next step, whether that be curbside recycling or what have you. Hopefully, we'll have good, experienced hands on deck who are happy with their job when it's time to go to it.
Sure.
So do we have a vision? It may not be your question to answer, but what is our vision for Public Works?
Yep, it's definitely not my question to answer.
Because I agree with Kelly, this is not giving a forward vision, I don't believe, to
It's not.
Public Works, but then yet I haven't heard what the real vision is.
There's not.
So that's another reason why I'm holding off until after the election, and that would give whoever sits in the mayor's seat, where it's current mayor or a different mayor, a chance to come to us with what the vision is going to continue to be.
In the scenario that you mentioned a second ago where we hire a CDL driver and he has to get on the back of the truck, is it a situation where that wasn't discussed with him prior to him being hired? And I guess my issue is much what Kelly and Karen is saying is, A, I'm not sure that this is going to get us to where I think we ultimately want to be, and B, I don't like jostling up a pay grade situation with job descriptions just because we're not managing the employees and saying, listen, and I do see the value of having CDL drivers all around, because we run into that where we have people short-staffed that day, or maybe we need to increase, maybe we need to have another route. If we need to have another route, all of a sudden we have plenty of CDLs to cover those trucks.
Right. I think I can explain the rationale in a monetary way for wanting that crew leader position there. In current situation, Frank Chisley, the supervisor, is a salary non-exempt employee. And when it comes to the time of day that facility has the gates open, morning to night, that spans much longer than an 8-hour day. So we are looking for a scenario where we can have more than one person at a level where we feel comfortable, where Linda feels comfortable to hand over the keys and say, you're responsible for opening up, you're responsible for closing up, you're responsible for being on call to come in when there's snow removal or when there's an emergency or anything like that. She's hoping to eliminate overtime, a lot of overtime on the supervisor's behalf that's costing us a lot of money, by just simply raising the crew leader position by what might perhaps be about $3,000 in comparison to about $20,000.
But that seems to be a management decision, not
You may
necessarily a payroll decision to me.
Yep. That's the explanation for it. That Sure.
One of my main reasons for wanting to make this change is to revert back to what we were practically 4 years ago. We went to the everybody's a driver. We're hiring people in as a driver. They have a time frame to get their CDLs, which takes sometimes up to a year. They pass the written test, then they have to apply, then they have to take the other test. They may not pass it the first few times. I don't know if any of you have ever seen one or crawled in or been close to one of those things. They're a pretty scary piece of equipment. And sometimes the people hire into the jobs and then they don't want to drive the truck, but they're there. With the two positions combined, it is a management issue, but with the two positions combined, everybody's a driver and nobody is just a pickup person. And then the people that are drivers come in, do their test, get experience, drive for the latest one was approximately 4 months, gets experience and moves to another job. All of our drivers that hired in under that sanitation / driver worker have been here 2 years or less. So we are constantly having vacancies, filling that, and we're missing this whole labor pool that's out here that are people who want a job, who want to work, who would like to work for us, would like to be the workers, but can't come to work here because they don't want to get a CDL, can't. Some of them for some physical reason or some past blemish on their history or something cannot get a CDL. So.
But if you don't have enough CDL drivers, then you're going to be in a shape that you're going to have everybody on the back of the truck, and nobody's going to be able to drive the truck. And that's happened in the past where they couldn't get in, like they need CDL drivers to get out and move in the snow and stuff like that. And they couldn't get in for, the weather was too bad for them to get in, and then the other guys couldn't drive the trucks, and so then you were stuck being late to getting out, getting roads clean and stuff like that. So I understand what you're saying, but it still doesn't hire somebody in today as a CDL driver. He can still come in today as a CDL driver, get his experience for a year and a half, go somewhere else that he can make more money as a CDL driver. I mean, that's still not going to stop that, and then you may have everybody on the back of the truck and nobody that can drive the truck.
Well, we have, at the same time that we made that switch, we made the switch for the maintenance worker and expanded those job duties, which those personnel are actually in Public Works as maintenance people. They are now maintenance / sanitation drivers. So we have a pool sitting over there of 5 employees who are actually in the public works and doing the maintenance department that we can pull from if
And
we get
in
low.
the past, we had problems with that by pulling them over. Then you couldn't get the public works jobs done when you had to pull them over. You know, honestly, this department really needs to have a big picture look at it instead of doing what we're doing tonight, and have a big picture look at that department, because one of the things in that department, you'd be better served if we're financially able to give some salaries, to give some increase, so that they can have CDL drivers out there and let them all be CDL drivers, switch on and off the back of the truck, and then actually pay them more so that they've got the standard that CDL drivers are there. That's what's in the private sector. You got one guy on a truck, but he gets paid what the salary would be of two guys that are out here. You know, really look at the broad picture of this instead of going, I really feel like it's going backwards instead of forwards. And it's going to be hard once we go backwards. It's going to be hard again to take two steps forwards. We took 2 baby steps forward. Now I feel like we're going 5 backwards. And then it's going to be hard to take 2 baby steps forward again with it. And we're never going to get to recycling.
Karen, was this implemented when you were mayor?
Going to having the CDL drivers, yes.
What was the purpose, or what was the said purpose at that point?
The whole purpose was twofold. One, because we literally had what I said, there would be times that you didn't have enough drivers to get out on the street, whether it was snow or whether it was for garbage pickup. And then the second was so that we would get to the point of we'd have 2 guys on the truck, and it would have, that was the goal for me, was to try to get 2 guys on the truck, so you had one on the front, one on the back, and then they would rotate off, and the driver would come to the back, and the one in the back would go to the front. And then eventually what would happen is you would be able to just have a person in each truck. So during the 4 years that I was here after it was implemented, it was trying to get enough of everybody on their CDLs coming in and having those CDLs.
Was the side loader truck eventually part of that plan, to ride one guy in a side loader truck?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's been very successful, the side loader. The problem we have, though, with the plan where you were doing the one guy on the back and the one guy on the front, our routes have picked up so much now with the concentration of the trucks. If we don't have 2 guys on the back, we're either going to have to put more routes on, or we're to do the one man and just have the one man and the driver, or we're going to have to stay where we are because we can't get, it takes the 2 pickup people, 2 guys walking down the street, one on each side, is pulling the cans as they go, pulling them to the back of the truck and loading them in the back of the truck.
I think we're flirting with workers' comp claims too.
Well, the tippers have helped that very much. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the tippers. The tippers have improved that situation, I think, have cut our workers' comp down a lot. We have some twisted ankles and we have some things like that now, but the major injuries, the backs, the strains, all of that and stuff are going because we're more automated all the time. And we are under, we're way under on what we should be in our equipment. We have 3 good trucks now, a decent truck and 2 good trucks. And then we have 4 old trucks. And it's we're constantly juggling to get those together. I've been looking at the salaries. I've almost completed a wage analysis using the KLC study and 3 similar cities that are in our area. And then salaries are an issue. Salaries are a huge issue on retention for us.
Well, we went the same process and made improvements at the police station with our police officers.
I'll be happy to bring you the wage analysis by the next meeting. I'm that close to having that done.
Are you including with that comparisons to the private sector and their staffing as well?
Haven't done it with the private sectors at all. I may be able to find 1 or 2 to do it with. I really hadn't done it. I'd been looking at municipalities. Most of the ones, two of the 3 that I'm looking at have curbside pickup, which is something that I'm ready to move forward with that now and go on and get the Rosies ordered and pick out our subdivision and start doing it on a test basis. Phase 1, I would prefer to call it phase 1 rather than test. But, yeah, we're ready to move on that. That's going to require some restructuring at recycling also at the same time.
Let me ask you this. The reason I support, the reason I, at least give it a second at this point, is my understanding is that, I guess the goal is to try to get cost savings. That is, we're going to make sure we're going to pick up the garbage, number one. Number two, we're going to do it for $15 a month. And this proposal, going by this ordinance, is going to increase the likelihood that we're not going to have to raise rates in the future. Is that what you
I
would you say?
would,
that's a
I
safe
would
thing?
hope
Is a
that
fair
that would be
statement?
my goal, that we don't have to do anything like that, that I get the most efficiency out of the people I've got. There was a schedule at the same time that we created the crew leader position that exists now in Public Works, provided a on-the-site supervisor, hands-on supervisor worker for that group of people. There was a position for that, for sanitation. It was in the process, I understand, in the process of being interviewed. They were going to find somebody for it. It became budget time, didn't get done, and it was the budget year that any unfilled vacancies were abolished. Since it hadn't been filled, it was abolished.
But now that had been vacant for, what, 3 years, I think, before we abolished.
I can't, yeah. I couldn't answer that part of it. It could be, it's a very important position to operate, that we've got a hole there. We have somebody that we needs to fill that. We have somebody that needs to make some decisions, on the fly, at the site, to pick up a can, to call for somebody to come and do this, to do these other things, to help with the scheduling, to supervise it, to know when somebody needs to call for an extra truck. When do we need 2 people on that truck, or do we need 1 person? In my opinion, it's very important that we get that position filled. I'm not asking for any new positions. This is going to make an effective change to probably, we have 3 vacancies right now. Well, we have 4. We lost 2 people last week, both of them drivers who now went someplace making $5 more an hour, by the way. But anyway, it would be to fill one of them with the crew leader position, then go ahead and backfill those with drivers, dedicated drivers.
The CDL market, trucker market nowadays, as far as trying to, if you've got a CDL, you're gold. I mean, you
Yes.
really are gold.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people coming out of, I know a guy that actually graduated from law school and is a lawyer, and now he's going to get into CDL and going into trucking. So it's growth industry. And anytime you've got that CDL, I mean, we're naturally you're naturally just going to have to compete against the private sector, and you're just not going to be able to. But I'll say this, the council's made the decision, and only council can raise the garbage rates. And council has stated, you got to stick with the $15 and the $22 for business. It behooves the administration to make sure that the first and only standard is greater efficiency in the department. If you're confident that this move tonight is going to increase efficiency in the department, ultimately it's not council's. Council's not on the line. It's you guys. Because guess what? It's not probably ever going to go above $15, at least for a long time. So if you guys are confident and think this is going to lower costs, then fine. But don't expect, well, it didn't work, and then come back before council and ask for an increase, because it doesn't matter who's on there, it ain't gonna go by, it ain't gonna go through.
This change should have been, I mean, I understand because Linda wasn't involved in it at budget time, but this change should be now postponed to whatever the new council, new administration, and do it with the budget for next year and put a complete plan in place along with it.
Karen, do we quit carrying on council business just because we have election coming
I
up?
think you do with something like this. It's just major. That has
I mean-
the potential of being very major. I think we're kind of short-sighted on what a major change this making. I mean, it sounds like a simple change. It sounds like it's housekeeping. It sounds like it's that, but I don't think it is. I think it's, and I wouldn't be arguing the point if I didn't believe in it, but I think you're making a major change, and I'm not so sure it's going in the right direction. And I think it's being kind of piecemealed in there because I haven't heard what the direction is that we really ultimately want to go. So it's not no, we can't stop city business or any of that. And hopefully the majority of us are all still here come January and come after November. But I'm just saying I would really love to have a plan that goes along with this instead of feeling like it's an initial reaction to it. I just see you're missing if we don't, you're missing the opportunity. So
I think, and that's my the two things I want to say prior to us voting it, if that's where we get to, is the fact that fundamentally, and this is what I harped on our previous director about, in support of the department, is that fundamentally, what is the ultimate direction that we want to go with the department, with sanitation, with recycling, what we offer, what services we offer, and what is best. I feel like making this decision or voting on this would absolutely make a difference for Linda and the department on the street as soon as these changes can be implemented. That I absolutely understand. But again, we still have not, in my 6 years, this is my 6th and final year on council, we have not talked sort of holistically about what we want to do with the department or what we can implement. The other part is if you, as our new director, have spent time and effort doing a wage study, would you still want us to make this decision tonight before we see what you're going to present us?
Yes, I would, because the wage study may affect the salaries of the people involved, but it's not going to affect the structure. And the structure is where our problem is, and the retention with the difference between, because all this is going to do is put us back to having a group of workers and a group of drivers and a crew leader to oversee these people. I didn't think there would be a snowball's chance you all would do much more than glance at the salary stuff anyway. That's why I hadn't even thought of bringing it to you. I was just getting it all together.
We appreciate the compliment.
But I really didn't.
A lot of time with the police salary shift
Yeah.
we did, and I absolutely welcome that if it
Yeah.
happens.
I have it, and I've been a little surprised at it, actually.
Well, if you go back to the guys now and tell them that we are actually seriously considering with some increases because of the CDLs, that there needs to be more, that they can compete better with what's out there, they might not support your idea of changing it out. They may want to stay with that and realize they get paid more for CDL, that they might want to stay.
If the people who are here right now, and this was going to be my presentation to them, we have 2 now that have been here more than a year and do not have their CDLs. So technically, they're past the time that they should be here. But if they wanted to proceed and get their CDLs, then we can use them. And they could be drivers, and they're going to be like backup drivers and fall into the flow and as it goes along. And they would have that opportunity. That would be their decision. One of them has shown no desire to proceed, and the other one has up to this point. So I guess those 2 could go either way.
Which that's in the hiring process, and I don't know who you're talking about. Don't want to know who you're talking about, of course. But that's it. When he was hired in, he should have been hired in understanding that you have to get your CDLs. This is a part of it, and the fact that he showed no desire for the year, that's a little disappointing. That it wasn't talked to earlier about. This is why you were hired. This is what you were hired for. This is what it should be. He should have been talked to about that.
Linda, you done, Karen?
Yeah, I'm
What's the
I'm
difference? What kind of increase in salary do you get if you get your CDLs? It's not much, is it?
Well, these people are hiring in as a grade 5 person. So getting their CDLs is not creating an increase for them. They just become CDL drivers.
But even within that grade 5, there's a
there's a wide well, I don't have it with me, but there's a pay scale, and anything that's in that 5, there's a wide. Here we go. Yes, I do have it. There's a wide range. It's from $25,600 to $43,251.
And we're not giving them any incentive to get the CDL?
Well, it used to be we gave a quarter.
Yeah.
Get your CDL. That's what
We
it
gave
used to
a
be.
quarter to
A
get-
quarter to get your CDLs years ago.
Quarter now.
But it went up where they were 4s, it went up to 5s, so
Right.
they actually got a grade change when they were CDL. They were a grade change,
Right.
which increased the salary that they were hired in at. But no, there was no initial, other than longevity or that type of stuff, there was nothing that was changing
Well,
that
see,
part
that's a
of it.
flaw in the system.
And then we already have 3 or 4 people who are grade 4s. They were grandfathered in. They were 4s when this change was made 4 or 5 years ago, and they're still 4s. They still have the opportunity, should they want to be advanced, they could apply for their CDLs, and we would do the training and everything, and then they could be CDL drivers if they wanted to be. None of them have to this point, but they do have that opportunity.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm calling for a vote. Keep beating this dead horse.
Mr. Lesby?
All right.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Mr. Van had something.
I'm sorry.
I'm amazed that we don't offer any more than that kind of an incentive for them to get their CDLs. And I guess my knee-jerk reaction is, A, I want to know what the price tag is on what we're voting on. And I don't think we have that tonight. And B, I would rather, because if the issue is not getting them to participate in the CDL process, I would rather look at rewarding them for the work that they've done in order to get that. I would rather do this than and I agree with Karen and Kelly that this is a significant step back to where I think we've always wanted to go, and that's with the automatic side loaders, with the one guy on the truck, and moving forward. For us to not incentivize our employees to get their CDLs more than a quarter or 50 cents or whatever, that's insanity.
I think that's fundamentally the change Linda's wanting to make, because the way that Director Thomas had this set up, everyone was being hired in as a driver worker.
But what we're doing is taking that incentive away if we correct that issue.
Well,
we're taking the potential for that away.
Like Linda said, we hired an employee with his permit, and we said, we will give you a year to get your CDL. And so he is on our time learning and trying to become a CDL driver. He has learned that it's a fearful process, and he doesn't want any part of it. So that employee got hired in as a CDL worker driver with a permit supposed to get his license. Now, we paused the situation, but technically, like, if this change doesn't happen and he does not become a CDL driver, he loses his job with the city. Because
But he knew that going into
he
the
knew that going
process.
in. But what would happen here is, if he does not want the CDL, never wants to get it, it's a fearful process for him, but he's an excellent worker, and he likes working the back of our truck, shows up every day to do that, we can put him in a grade 4. We have a place for him. And, you know, if he ever decides again later that he wants to try for that CDL and bump up to grade 5, he is incentivized to do it at that point.
So are we doing this whole change to keep that one employee?
No, I don't think it'd be to keep that one employee at all. It's just, we didn't want to act on those 2 employees with this being up in the air, because if this scenario goes into place, then we can save that employee. If this scenario doesn't go into place, then we have to look at either, you know, at the mayor's discretion there, do you want to extend his probationary period to give him X number of days to get this done, or do we want to terminate the employee?
But I think he was hired with the understanding that's what the mission was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we would totally be within our rights to terminate the employment at the end of the 1-year period, or as soon as you guys perhaps didn't pass the ordinance to change it to this procedure,
Give him
because
a
we don't have a
probation.
place for him then.
I would strongly request you don't do that, because those are 2 of my better employees.
Yeah.
Request that we don't do.
That you don't
Vote against this change.
get rid of the employees, yeah.
If you broke
I
it
don't
down,
think we're voting to get rid of employees. I think what we're doing is we're voting to set policy on where we want to go with the sanitation department. I don't think we get locked up in employees here. I think we're determining, and do we have a price tag on this proposal? I'm sorry, Mark. My apologies.
no, go ahead, you finish.
Do we have a price tag on this proposal?
It's not as drawn out as what I did for you with the HR job and the payroll job. But if you look at it, if you look at adding $3,000 to a crew leader position, and then you rearrange these others so that instead of having everyone at the level 5 worker driver, you have 6 at grade 4 and 8 at grade 5, then I think it tells you, without sitting down and doing all the math, that you're probably going to have a wash, if not come out a little better there. So I apologize for not putting the pen to the paper and giving you those precise numbers, but it's a reorganization of the staff that I don't think will account to any extra money for us.
2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
The employee that we would hire in that doesn't have a CDL, give me an average of what they would start out per hour.
If we hire a CDL worker in at $12.33, I would say maybe 10 or 11, 10.50, 11, close to $11 an hour.
And what is the actual turnover rate in that department?
Don't have it calculated as a rate, but we just recently lost 2 employees. We lost 2 employees last week to go be truck drivers for a local industry. They aren't going nationwide. They're staying in-state. They're staying local, and making a lot more money.
Can you go back to the first of the year? I mean,
Mhm. I can, if you want me to.
I mean, do you know right
Oh,
off your
gosh.
head? Again, you know,
Maybe 5, 6.
I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. And pardon me if it doesn't come out the right way. And
The anticipation.
I try to be
is killing.
politically correct here.
Man.
When's it ever stop me?
Just be correct, take that political out of there.
This is a pay issue. And until that gets addressed, you're still going to have turnover. Yeah, this might be a short-term fix. I think it's a Band-Aid at best.
It's kind of the same.
No offense, I promise, Linda, no offense. I don't mean that in the way it maybe appears. That's why I'm trying to hesitate and be careful with my wording here. But I think we need to look at the overall study of the kind of similar to what happened with the police department, and then determine what we can do, if anything, to make sure that we keep that turnover as low as possible, to where we don't constantly have to go in and train and retrain,
Right.
put out advertisements looking for employees.
Mhm.
That department, you've mentioned it, Linda, you've mentioned it, we need stability in that department.
I agree.
And until the pay issue gets addressed, I'm not too sure that this is a fix.
And I hate to take the humanity out of it, but as well, fix it so that this is our policy, and if the turnover happens, or if our employees aren't gonna fit with our policy, that's still our policy.
That's right. Well, and I was going to say, there are, even with the police department and even with the fix we did there will be some industries that will still lose employees to if they can get there for better money. That happens with our fire department, police department, and all. If they can get the job in Lexington making $20,000 more, they'll go do that. There are some we'll never compete with, and that's just how that's going to be. And there are some private trucking industries that I don't think we'll ever be able to compete with CDL wages. But I think comparing us to other cities, we do need to look at what Linda has found. I guess I just have a different opinion on the fact that the structure and the pay can be separated. I think knowing that you have worker bees, you have driver leader bees, and you have the person who tells all those leader bees what to do, can happen without having to designate right now exactly what that pay level is going to be for each one of those. And then I think once you get them structured correctly, you can then say, now, this is exactly how I would like to change the pay of this group of individuals and this group of individuals. But that's just my opinion.
But is that impossible without changing the pay grade and the job description? Can you not take 4 sanitation worker drivers and put them on a truck and designate one to be the overseer or the crew chief or something like that?
But do you want to pay them all the same, or do you want to
We're not paying them all the
attach
same
an
now.
incentive on that?
But we're not paying them all the same now, though.
Well, we space them out by year. They get their 3% wage increases.
Okay. So the guy that's been there the longest should have the seniority over that group of 3 or 4 men.
They do a lot of that now, and what comes into play, and Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, the more seniored men drive those trucks, and they don't want to stop driving those trucks. So the less seniored men with the CDL and the same qualifications, just not as much experience and seniority with us, get stuck on the back.
That's a management issue.
You think they should?
If we have
Come on.
if we have a senior guy with a CDL on a truck and he's supposed to give up the reins at noon, then he gives up the reins at noon.
According to what I heard from them when I did all of my interviews, again, correct me, it causes a large break in their productivity and efficiency when they start making all those changes. One route driver driving one route the same way every week seems to be what they prefer as a group in terms of efficiency. That's just from their mouths. So Linda may have a completely different opinion of that.
I understand that too, but if you had the same route, and I'm completely understand that philosophy, but if you had Joe that drove from 8 to 12, and then Roger took over from 12 to 2 or whatever, that would stay consistent the same all the time unless someone was sick and that kind of stuff, which you have to adjust for. But
Yeah, and I can understand that way too.
Well, and the same would apply if you had one guy on the back of the truck all day long. Your efficiency is going to decrease because that guy's going to get tired.
that's right.
You know, and I think that cross-training segment of this is, I would assume, was a major component of the original implementation of this.
Yep. I've got one more comment to make, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I cut you off.
Mayor, I've heard you, in almost the 2 years that I've been back on this council, I've heard you say on multiple times, the constituents of Georgetown expect their garbage to be picked up, the fire department to respond when there's a fire, and the police department to respond when there's an emergency.
Absolutely. They're emergency services.
Just because those sanitation workers don't carry a gun or put out a fire doesn't make them any less important than the other two departments.
You don't have a police officer going to a community, maybe no one sees them 2 or 3 days, but you let the garbage go not picked up one day, and you see where the attention goes.
And we saw that this past winter.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, you saw that this past winter. And
Indeed.
there's no city department in this city that I'm aware of that has had 5 to 7 people leave Georgetown city employment in the past 9.5 months. There's no department in the city. There's not one. And until the pay issue gets addressed, the turnover is going to continue to happen. And yes, again, I think it's a Band-Aid. And again, this is about a vision, as Kelly, Brad, and Karen have stated. It's about a vision. And what is that vision? And that's what we need to know. So we can get the stability in that department and move forward with I don't know how we can move forward with the recycling right now with losing 7 people. 7.
Well, we've lost 2 in the last 2 weeks.
But we've lost 5.
And we had
through the
2,
first-
we had 2 that we had lost earlier this year. So, yeah, it's, the pay's an issue. I can't fix the pay. If y'all want to fix the pay, you can fix the pay. I can't do that. I can go out here, put them on the truck, have them pick the stuff up, make sure nobody's getting hurt, make sure we're getting it done, make sure we're getting it back on time. I can have, we have the mini little structure on some of the trucks, it works, and on some of it doesn't, with the driver and the 2 pickup people. And some of them don't switch off. They don't switch off all day. They don't want to switch off because that's how they get their job done. They are dedicated to it. They want to get it done. They're hard at it. They give it everything they've got. But sometimes you get groups that fight, and they argue about who drives and who doesn't and all that. My vision is to go to automated trucks. We've already have one, and the business route is done with 1 pickup person and 1 driver. And I started that when I came. We've got 1 new a double rear loader truck, and that's going to always require 2 people. And we have another area of Georgetown that's always going to require that because we can't get the automated trucks in there. But my goal is to go towards the automated and in some of the labor situations. This right now is a fix. But in my opinion, it's not. It's a fix for a mistake that was made.
Right.
It was a mistake that was made before.
What was the mistake exactly?
And going to all the CDL drivers
right.
to start with.
I understand.
Okay. Then the second part was losing that position, that crew leader position in sanitation that they couldn't find applicants for. I really don't know. I'm guessing there as to why we didn't fill it.
I'm with you.
And you've done, and that's the thing, and that's what makes this so difficult.
Okay, there we go. You want to say that?
There were family members in the department, so
Right.
qualified candidates couldn't supervise their family member. That's why it couldn't be filled.
And Linda, this is what makes this so difficult for me and for others of us is the fact that you've come in and taken the helm and done exactly what we've asked you to do and try to fix what you can in as short term as possible. But As far as loss, I mean, when we did the police study leading up to 2012, we were losing 5 guys a year at the police department. We lost 36 people in 6 years at the police department, almost 36. We lost 34. Only 5 of them were retirement related. So we were losing that. Within about 6 months of making that, again, for lack of a better term, the holistic shift, the shift at the police department in the salary change, right? We were getting people from other departments wanting to come here. We weren't last among the 30-something police departments across the state. We were about 27th out of 32 or 3 departments. We didn't want to become first, but we ended up being about 14th or 15th as far as starting pay and the graduated pay. But all of a sudden, we had people coming to us instead of leaving us. So that is possible. So again, that's what's difficult here is that I don't want to vote for this because of the short-term fix, but I understand how it could be a short-term fix. But I don't want to give up the fact that we need to do something larger with the department as to what we're going to do. You know, what does the department look like in 5 to 10 years, not in the next election cycle?
Really quick question for you. Could this not be seen as like step or phase 1, and then step 2 or 3 would be exactly what you're talking about? And I'm asking you that question, but I kind of want to say something else.
Right.
I mean, I've tried to be very objective about this. I mean, I'm not overly opinionated either way. But whenever we've brought in a new department head, like Ms. Wise, we've given them some latitude.
Right.
We've said, hey, get in there, see what it's going to take to get things straightened out, cleaned up, and working in a better fashion. And we have a history of doing that. And I guess that's the biggest reason I'm supporting this right now is because, you know, I kind of see her as those boots on the ground. She's in there, and I think she realizes what the needs are.
Every day. Yeah.
Every day. And Ms. Miller is obviously on her side, and apparently Mr. Varney, Mayor Varney, is doing the exact same thing. And in this specific situation, I'm putting my faith and trust in them because they're the ones that are dealing with it each and every day. And I understand where you're struggling.
Sure.
But I kind of see this as that first step.
I don't disagree, and I would be willing to go ahead and vote for this. But I think our history also says we don't go back to it after we pass it. We don't go back to the expectation of, and again, the council makeup is going to change. So we're going to have different leadership in this room come January 1. So, yeah, okay. I'm okay with going with this now. But I would agree that with you there, but I also think our history is we go ahead and say yes now, but then we don't really come back to it.
We could address number 2. What would you like to see done going forward? I mean, Linda's working on a pay scale. She's looking at curbside recycling. There's no reason why we take a step back.
When we do that with curbside recycling, we're going to need more drivers, which is going to put us back in the same pickle that we're in with this.
I don't think so if you address the money part of it first, the pay raise, the pay
But we're-
scale, which is what you do.
That's the main thing. It's always going to come down to money.
Yeah.
And then the CDL drivers will come.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't
And
know.
I'm
not
sorry.
sure you
Well, I'm just saying too, I understand, I want to be able to give Linda the tools to work with and the management that's her, the way she runs it. But what you're saying about the pay scale and stuff, I absolutely agree. We brought the police department up to another level, and I think we can do the same thing with that. But in the meantime, not tie her hands. It might seem like a fix to us, but it looks like she's been in there, like David said, with the boots to the ground, you know, working with them and putting it together. And the worker bees that she's talking about, if we put that incentive in place that you're talking about and taking that pay scale up to another level, those worker bees would have that incentive that they could go ahead and get that CDL if they wanted to.
They wouldn't if they were classified as a sanitation worker alone. They would if they were classified as a sanitation worker driver.
Well, what I'm saying though, Brad, when you're making those changes, that you could promote from within and give them that opportunity if they would want to take that incentive to move up.
Yeah, they would
think
have
it
that
could be
opportunity.
worked in there, would it not?
Yep.
I don't know. I'm sorry, Mark.
Well, when we start to talk about pay raises and trying to make ourselves more competitive with the CDL market, I do hasten to point out that we have a $1.6 million ceiling within the sanitation department. And if we aggressively talk about pay raises, that's all well and good, but then you're going to have to raise garbage rates. And I don't know if...
Raise what, I'm sorry?
Raise garbage rates.
Okay.
And I don't think it's going to sit terribly well with the residents and the businesses, the excuse of, well, we really want to pay our CDL drivers a market wage. The beauty of this proposal, the one saving grace, I guess, for the proposal, I should say, shouldn't say beauty, because it's not that pretty, is that it opens up a labor pool of people at grade 4 who aren't necessarily interested in learning driving. You're always going to have, to speak objectively, you're always going to have a churn within grade 4 people. I mean, they're just not, I mean, there's going to be people that will treasure the job, who understand how good it is, how good the benefits are, but you're always going to have a churn back and forth down there in grade 4. That said, it opens up the labor pool and it gives us flexibility and hopefully some cost savings and efficiency. And I think that's the overriding thing. Now, I will ask this question. Council, the general drift of council, that's a pretty good line, general drift of council, is that we're moving toward curbside recycling. How does this proposal fit in with curbside recycling? Is this proposal of bringing in, you know, more workers at grade 4 who aren't going to get their CDL, and we're going to have a dedicated class of CDL drivers who are only going to be driving the trucks, and we'll still have 2 men per truck usually? How is that going to work?
Well, if we go into the curbside recycling, we're going to be picking up materials that are going to be have to be handled again. Just instead of taking it to the landfill, we'll be taking it to a drop-off station or to Lexington or a transfer station or wherever it goes. But they're still going to have to handle it. It's going to be a separate truck on a separate route at a separate time. Most likely, I'm looking at the curbside recycling as using one pickup person, because you're not going to have the weight and the bulk. Well, maybe the bulk, but definitely not the weight.
No, you can do it one pickup
Garbage.
person.
I mean, we
You can do it one pickup
consistently
person.
have cans going over 200 pounds, and the recyclables are not going to be.
And you may not, you can even do it by bag, and you may not even need to use, is it Rosie's?
So we're gonna be looking at doing that on a separate route at a separate time. So we're still gonna need a driver, and we're still gonna need, a pickup person.
It's usually it's usually the biomass of like thrown away food. It seems a couple of times I've been on the back of a truck. It's been about 6 or 7 years ago, but it seems like it was biomass more than anything else in terms of the food that added the weight to the bags.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be, but in terms, if you're just talking clean recyclables, just like the blue bags they use over in Woodford County.
Any of you who recycle at
Yeah.
home know your recycling can is
Yeah,
way
it's a lot lighter.
compared to what your garbage can is. So that would be something that would be going on there. We're still going to have the pool of 4, the employees who come in as a 4, who may be here long enough that they want to advance and move up and apply for their CDLs and go forward. And we'll still have a pool of CDL drivers that we're probably hiring in from the outside. I fully intend to utilize that crew leader in the implementation of the curbside recycling. We'll have to establish routes, we'll have to assign drivers, look at timing, schedule, cost, all of those things. And I need another person to help with some of that stuff. And
So
at the
will,
same time.
will the drivers never be on the back of the truck with this proposal then?
They will be, if need be, they would be. If we had, all of our pickup people weren't available that day, or they had to go do something else, salt sidewalks or something like that, then they could go on the back of it. I'm trying to eventually get to where we don't have that guy on the back of the truck at all. We're always going to have some of it here because of how our city's laid out.
Well, but we only have one side loader, and you've got 8 drivers and only 6 workers. That's what I'm trying to figure out how that works out, because we got one side loader that would have one driver, one
Well, we got
worker.
we have 5 drivers and 3 very unhappy drivers right now because they don't hardly ever get to drive, or they only drive, when somebody's out or somebody's picked up. We can get the efficiency by maintaining the routes with regular drivers, and then then you have a backup driver, so that when that person's off, that other one can bop right in there and still know the route. Our routes are big.
Our routes are not big. If you were to bring, that's the thing with this is the last few years trying to get efficiency, and it's taken, like I said, a few steps forward with it. I totally believe this is going backwards with it, because a private hauler can come in here and pick this city up in 4 days and do it with 1 man on a truck and pick this whole city up in 4 days. We do this, we vote for this, everybody has their opinion to vote for it the way they're gonna vote for it. If we do that, we are never going to get forward to where this city needs to be. And what Mark was talking about with money, if we move forward with this, we're never going to be efficient in what we do for the consumer and the taxpayer on the price. If we continue making a plan, we might be able to keep it on that $15, but this is going to go backwards because it should be down to 2 men on a truck, eventually down to 1 man on a truck. Because I tell you what, if you put this out to Rumpke, they'd have 4 days, pick up the whole entire city, do everything that we do now, and be able to pick up this whole city with one guy on a truck and then do it in 4 days. Brad, am I right or wrong?
You're close. You would probably have 2, maybe 3 trucks with 2 guys
Right.
for 3 days.
And how much more efficient than that is in basis what we do today. And talk about cost savings for the taxpayers. It could be done. It's just not been done. And this is doing this today, voting for this today will never get us there.
Get us where?
Get us to-
Privatizing
No,
or?
get us to, more likely get us to privatizing doing this, but it'll never get us to true efficiency of picking up garbage for the city.
Linda, do you, let me ask Linda this. I mean, do you agree with that, Linda? I mean, you're at the top of the,
Well, okay, I'll just throw some numbers at you. Yeah, you know, we're running 4 routes a day, one driver, one with a driver and a pickup person. So the other 2 trucks have 2 drivers and 2 pickup people on each one. They're picking up between 525 and 680 houses for each of the regular truck, the 2 regular trucks. The business truck picks up 182 businesses 3 days a week, and then on the other days, the 26 regular dumpsters, 26 other dumpsters. The automated truck's running over 700 houses a day. So if we can speed that up to where we can eliminate one whole truck there, I'm not seeing it right now.
How are we looking at eliminating trucks and drivers with what we're faced with Lexus coming in, 750 new jobs? We're not going to get all those families in here.
Right.
But we're looking at growth. We're having 1,000 to 2,000 a year now without that.
So
And it's been steady every single year.
So it's important to look long term.
Yeah.
Quick comment, Mayor. During the Festival of the Horse, I always speak to our city employees and a lot of the sanitation departments downtown working. And I'm not ashamed to say I asked the police department how they liked the house chief doing, or the fire department, and I asked how Linda was doing, and they all were very pleased. They're a very different attitude. So I think we need to give her the leadway. I think she's doing a good job. You put the trust in her. We got to put the trust in her. So.
Well, you hire a director, you let a director do their job. If they don't do their job, it'll surface soon enough anyway.
And I would love to add only one more piece to that for you, and then I'll be quiet. We have a lot of very modest employees who work here for the city, and Linda's another one of those. And I mean, absolutely no disrespect to Mr. Thomas or any of the employees who have decided to leave, but Linda's management style is 100% different from Terry Thomas's management style. And there are going to be employees who won't want to work for that management style. Right or wrong, there are employees who won't want to do that. So I do not think that 100% or perhaps even 50% of our turnover is completely attributed to the wages. I just wanted to tell you that.
Well said. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lesby?
I will affirm my yes vote.
Mr. McEwen?
Yes.
Mr. Penn?
No.
Mrs. Tingle Sains?
No.
Mr. Showalter?
No.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
5-3.
5-3? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, lady, very much. Thank you, council. Okay, we're not ready for number B. They've taken that off the agenda.
Yeah. Oh, folks, I'll apologize. I got between being sick last week and at the KLC conference. I meant to look into this and get you some answers and get back. Maybe have some changes if necessary, but I just simply didn't. So
he's still sick.
Yeah. I'm actually, matter of fact, I probably want to discuss the situation with the folks at the state Housing and Buildings and see what they recommend. And then I'll go get it straight from the horse's mouth, and they'll tell us what to do. As far as whether the county needs to be a part of this and on the appeals board in some way, I honestly don't know what the answer is. So I'm going to look for some more answers, and we'll bring it back to you again.
Time Warner?
Yeah, I guess that's me too.
Time Warner.
It worked well last time.
I was going to say, is this another presentation?
All right. I don't have any good.
You don't have no slink or nothing like that?
I told my one good story.
There's only one Rubik's Cube.
I won't be long. I do want to give you a quick update. Last time I was here, I gave you a big list of all the things that we got done and all the things that we needed to get done. And it wasn't the very next day that we didn't have one of the major obstacles out of the way, and that was getting planning and zoning on their own network and getting the connection from them to the PVA's office routed not through our basement. And that has been done. That has been completely offloaded. We have been able to turn off that switch, take their server over to their office. So we're very happy about that. That now frees us up to move on to our next piece. I mentioned at the last meeting that one of the biggest priority projects that we have is our bandwidth. I showed you a nice big diagram that explained exactly what that meant, and basically we need a bigger pipeline to the outside world, and we need a bigger pipeline amongst and between ourselves to run our software. It's eventually going to run our phones. It's about efficiency of operation. It's about security. So with that in mind, we have been working with the folks at Time Warner Cable for about 6 months now to try to put together a custom package that we really feel is the ideal solution to our problem. They are going to give you a presentation on exactly what their product is. It's Time Warner Business Class. It is an Ethernet solution, and honestly, I'm not, that only means so much to me. It means a lot to them. They're going to help to explain what that means. Basically, it's a very advanced network system that is a smart system. We are hopeful. We're not just hopeful. We are confident that while the package that we're presenting to you tonight is going to be an increase in costs over what we are spending currently on network, on internet, that the immediate result of this contract will be that we are able to move to a phone VoIP system that will result in a dramatic cost savings. When I say dramatic, I mean the estimates, it's kind of difficult to parse through the bills, these phone bills, and the phone and internet is kind of all conglomerated together. So after we get a network contract established, the very next step is to have a phone audit. And a company, whether it's an independent company or whether it is a vendor, a phone vendor who offers that service as part of their package, will come in here and they will look at every single phone line we have. We think we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 phone lines. Not all of them are going to be necessary. A lot of them can go away with the VoIP system. A lot of them will have to stay. There are things like alarms or direct connections. But once we have that phone audit and we move to a VoIP system, and there are a variety of options that we have, I think we're looking at saving anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 a month. And that's on top of what we will be adding to this contract or to our internet. Conservative estimates, conservative is a 30% savings over what we're spending right now. And we're spending in the neighborhood of $10,000 on phone and internet. Again, we've also talked with the folks at the police department. They are interested, I believe, in coming on and being a part of this, and both now in the short transition period and in the new building, where hopefully they will tie in with the 911 center, and everything will be in a nice, neat little package. that is efficient, it's affordable, and it's going to be a major step forward for this city. So the folks from Time Warner are here again to present to you this proposal. You have blue folders in front of you that have all the information that you need. And I guess I would urge you to follow along. With that, I will introduce Jim Mansfield. He is the account executive, and I believe, and forgive me if I get your names wrong, you're Mike? You're Tom? Right. All right, so Mike and Tom are with him. They're here as his support team. I'm going to turn over to the podium to him, and I urge you all, if you have any questions, stop and ask, right?
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here tonight. We really appreciate this.
Yes, sir. Mayor Varney, council members, thanks for having us tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss this proposal with you. My name is Jim Mansfield. As Mr. Hartley said, I handle government accounts in the state of Kentucky for Time Warner Business. My direct supervisor, Tom Fenster, he is the director of enterprise sales, and I brought Mr. Mike Broderick, who's a sales engineer, to answer any questions. I know that we're, sometimes acronyms and telecommunication services data, all that talk is a little kludgy, and it can be a little difficult to understand. So hopefully the three of us can walk you through any questions that you have. As Mr. Hartley mentioned, we've been working with the city for 5 months, a little more than 5 months, on a more efficient, productive, and ultimately cost-effective network than what you have currently running your data and communication services. We took our time in building it and modeled it after several cities that we currently do business with in the state of Kentucky, which I've included on page 3 in your jacket. We do business with the city of Louisville, Lexington, little cities and big cities alike. Ethernet services, to answer that question, is a more efficient way of getting secure communications across a data network or an IP backbone without having to use twisted copper wire, the stuff that's in the ground. There are limitations to that. Time Warner's been we recently won the J.D. Power Award and the Frost Sullivan Award for customer service and network design, et cetera. And long story short, let me try and show you this, see if this makes sense. Okay. This is, okay, so I walked in, I'm a little laid back, so I hope that's okay. I walked in the door, the City Hall, went downstairs and saw this on the whiteboard. This is a detail of your current network configuration. It involves multiple carriers, multiple points of access, no service level agreements. Some of it's DSL, some of it is the T1, which to kind of wrap it up is a small amount of bandwidth, 4.5 megabytes. Long story short, these departments are not truly communicating with each other. There's several points of failure and break fix involved in the current network infrastructure. By eliminating all the points of failure and moving to a new network, we were able to demonstrate that the city could have a fiber connection with guaranteed internet speeds. Right now, there's a lot of bottlenecking. Sometimes you can't get on the network, you can't VPN into it. Applications aren't accessible, which you mentioned with the GIS and the PDA. So what we did was we separated all the entities. So we've got all 7 city entities along with City Hall connected to each other through City Hall, both with dedicated internet. So each entity has its own internet pipe, as well as private line between each of those communication points and City Hall that allows for secure communications. The thing it does for us, and it does for you, is the points of failure have turned from many into, honestly, one point of failure. We're going to bring fiber into the main location, and then we also have backup on coax and DOCSIS, which is the way that they communicate between each other. Essentially, you've gone from 4.5 megabytes of bandwidth to 35 at Public Works, 15 at all the other locations, and 10 megabytes of what's called synchronous bandwidth, which is up and back, unlike DSL, which is all pulled down the internet, basically no up speed. It's going to allow for a transition to VoIP. I mean, you have to have a network upgrade to get to VoIP. Here's what VoIP does for you. VoIP gets rid of the taxes on the phone lines. the federal taxes, all kinds of other charges, which are several $100s between your two current carriers, probably about $500 in taxes. VoIP allows you to cut your long distance bill. For instance, your AT&T bill is 9 cents a minute. Through VoIP, it's between 2 and 4 cents. VoIP allows you to drop phone lines. You guys have 70 phone lines right now. And I'm not here to sell VoIP. I'm here to tell you the importance of looking at the big picture. We want you to upgrade the network so you can have support that will make an efficient cost savings in the long run. So VoIP lets you drop phone lines. Some of the lines you're paying $70 a piece for. I mean, our phone lines are $30. Now, they wouldn't support VoIP. The plan is to keep a few for terminal services, police, fire, emergency, and the rest are all handled by the architecture that delivers voice over IP. So that gets rid of taxes, cuts long distance in half, it drops phone lines on the bill, and ultimately makes it a much more effective, honestly, a lot easier to manage network than what you have now. You've got a very limited IT staff. We must have had 12, 15 meetings. Many more than that were canceled and rescheduled because of the attention that it takes to address that on a daily basis. And so we think we've got a good solution. It's going to save you a lot of money. Industry experts say, 30 to 70% on VoIP. So we went low on.
Must be more efficient.
A lot
Much
more
more
efficient. Yeah. Right now you guys are paying $10,000 a month. Our proposal comes to, I believe, $4,200, right? Your current spend that we could identify, let me say the billing from AT&T and Windstream, great companies, is very cumbersome to muddle through. A lot of the information is cross-connected. You could call them and ask them to help you break it down, and they cannot. And I know that he has called Mr. Hartley and tried to get information. We took about 5 guys and ladies and spent about a week looking at the bill copy. And Mr. Hartley's synopsis is about as close as you're going to get. Point being that the current spend that you have on just the data piece, and that's all we're talking about, is about a $2,000 uptick to move to Time Warner Business Class. What you got to keep in mind is that we guarantee our rates. So those rates are dedicated, they don't deviate, they're always accessible. It's always on. We have service level agreements that guarantee uptime. Downtime's less than 5 minutes a year on our service. We handle the state of Ohio, multi-million-dollar contract we're working on. The city of New York, just to illustrate that we're very proficient at designing and implementing networks that are good for changing cost savings. I don't know, questions? I probably left a bunch out, but.
Does our current hardware support this upgrade?
The current hardware does
Routers, switches?
Does support the upgrade, although when you transition to VoIP on the back end, that's going to be the council's decision on whether here's some options or flavors, if you will, whether you want to do it and have it posted, which might be $30 a person, or whether you want to invest in the equipment, like the police Sergeant Swanigan has, Captain Swanigan, sorry. With Cisco equipment, where you own the equipment, it's a lot easier to manage, there's more upfront costs. In the long run, again, it's just going to trim the costs ridiculously. It's hard to arrive at a finite number based on the way the billing is. So if you drop Windstream AT&T, you're at $4,200, and then really all you're adding on top are per seats for your communication services. So each employee, whatever that number is, I think we threw the number 70 out. Long distance, 2 cents a minute instead of 9. And tweaks, voicemail. Traditionally you pay for voicemail. With VoIP, there's no charge for voicemail. Traditionally you pay to be able to call people back and forth. VoIP, those charges are eliminated. There's no taxes. There's tons of benefits. And that's the state-of-the-art communications infrastructure. I moving to voice over IP.
Brett.
Easy to manage for this guy, Mike Martin. Back there, I think he is, yeah. Easy to manage for Sophisticity while they're here, and your permanent IT staff when you hire them.
Brad, to answer your question, on the internet side, put the phone side aside for a second, it is compatible with our existing hardware, and not only that, but you guys, as part of the package, are bringing in all new modems and receiving equipment, routers. So all the stuff that we have right now that's processing the signals from Windstream and AT&T, that all gets taken out of the picture. They put in brand new equipment that they support. And
So to create the hub, we won't, that's no additional expense?
No, absolutely
Okay.
not. Actually, there is a construction cost involved. You'll see on one of the pages in the diagram that the long-term plan, or phase 2, would be to maybe move more fiber in to provide more redundancy, better speeds as the city grows, right? Everything you need to do it is there. It's all scalable. It's easy to add bandwidth where need be if you add phones or add people.
So is there a lease to that equipment? Do we pay a lease now,
No,
or?
it's all included by us, and we cover
Okay.
any construction costs. There's a list in there of, I think, all 7 locations, including the lease. You can see in phase 2, if we did move you to fiber, that we are more than happy to cover the more than $60,000 in cost to get the access into the city. Currently, we are going to cover construction costs for fiber for City Hall. Discussion was, as Public Works might grow, or the police department might move, or is going to move to a new location, to add them back into that work. So, am I making sense? Everybody? Okay. Questions?
So does this do anything to allow the city council or the city chambers to be a hot spot for people to get online? That we can get online?
Well, any office.
Here, when we're here, like to bring our iPads or something for us to get online?
it will absolutely tie into that, yeah. Now, that will require some additional equipment, but it won't be that substantial of a cost. We
Be
can
like
get enterprise.
password
Yeah,
something?
well, we'll have to get enterprise level Wi-Fi, but even that is not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. You couldn't do it right now with the limited bandwidth that we have, but absolutely, all we really need, and somebody who's tech person, disagree with me, but we would need to get enterprise level Wi-Fi router in here and set up the appropriate protections, and we got it already.
I mean, that would be helpful to the council. You're sitting here, if you had your iPad, you're sitting here looking up some kind of fact. You could look it up
Yeah.
while you're here to help, so.
And we can help facilitate that. And also, we're going to give free basic cable 2 outlets to each location. That's no cost. We're also going to manage your routers. What that means to the city and to its personnel is that if something happens to the network, we can control it, we can pull it back up, and the downtime is minimal. Like I said, less than 5 minutes a year on the average. And so by doing managed router, providing more efficient network speeds, greater bandwidth, private connectivity between access points, and more bandwidth coming into City Hall, we think we can really position you guys, take advantage of what you're talking about.
Okay, I have a couple of questions if I could, and I'm trying to grasp all of this. So this is really and truly what Georgetown, we're investing in this, right? This is an investment for our future, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So as we move forward and you have this bandwidth, as we move forward, will the cost, is there going to be additional costs down the road if we have to increase bandwidth and those kinds of things? Is that going to be astronomical? Is it going to be kept at a minimum? You know what I'm kind of...
Does this set us up for future expansion is what she's asking,
Yes.
at minimal?
It depends. I mean, it's all relevant, just like you might increase the options or features in your car when you're looking at it on the lot. There are different things that you can do service-wise that we have, you can add as you grow. Growing bandwidth, the costs are incremental, and so if it's $100 for 1 megabyte, it might be $180 for 2. So there are incremental costs associated with the growth, of course. What we're talking about is a 3-year agreement between the City of Georgetown and Time Warner Business Class that would actually give you proactive monitoring. Since I handle government only, I look at my accounts, and if we have things that come out that are less expensive or more proactive to the customer, I'll call the customer and talk about that. And if it can be, bill can be reduced, then we reduce it. And if we know there's a need, we'll keep an eye out for a product or service that might help impact the current way that you're doing business. So we're very proactive. There are costs associated with the obvious things like increasing bandwidth. Other than that, good to go.
It does answer my question.
You mentioned managed routers. I know with police and the 911, they have to be able to manage those routers, and I think there may even be federal regulations to where only they can manage those routers. Is that something, Robert, am I correct with that?
CJIS standards require our traffic to be segmented off where we transport, NCIC information has to be segmented, but that's done via hardware.
Okay.
And the proposal we were talking about would say initially where their current location is, just to increase the speed of internet bandwidth to 50 by 5. Long term, potentially bring in fiber to the new location and connect 911 to it with a point-to-point piece of fiber.
And I assume
giving them all control. The managed router, just for the city.
Okay. And I assume, knowing those two departments, that there would be some level of 24/7 support easily?
Yes, yeah. We are 24/7. We have a 4-hour mean time to repair. And so depending on when you pick up the phone, usually you get somebody, a technician, out on site. The advantage for the city, police business aside for the moment, is by us managing those routers, we can see what's going on, and in case of that, it's a lot easier for us to fix.
Does that same 4-hour standard even apply to the police?
Yeah, it does. From a transport level, or the data, the bandwidth that's coming in, certainly, yeah, we manage that. We're proactive. You pick up the phone and call, and we dispatch.
Can you talk a little bit about your yearly downtime?
In the industry, there have been studies that show that it's called the 5 nines. So this is about, take it more nines if you want, but it's 5 nines reliability, so 99.99999% of the time the network is up. This translates to between 5 and 15 minutes a year in downtime. I know you all have experienced fiber cuts, all kinds of points of failure which have bottlenecked and not allowed the employees to get on. I know it's frustrating. Time Warner's kind of different. We're the only ones that offer a solution like this. Okay, so we bring everything in by fiber, just like anybody else, a big piece of bandwidth, and then we're able to access cost efficiently and repair quickly because our stuff isn't in the ground, typically. It's easy to get to. We watch multiple points of failure along our access points through the city, and it's easier for us to respond, less costly for us to build or fix things, and it makes us more proactive and easier to work with as a company. It's an easier job being on this side than it is being on the AT&T side, or what they call the CLEC, or the competitive local phone company.
Andrew, does this impact the water company in any way, or could it somehow benefit them as well if we were to bring them into the fold, or maybe even the Chamber of Commerce?
Do you guys already have a contract with the water company? Isn't that what one of the ones you named?
I meant to actually mention this. Thanks for bringing that up. Sorry. We currently have planning and zoning, fiber, and some data in there, and the animal shelter, all 5 Georgetown Parks and Rec, museum, remote fire station, and Time Warner is in the area, Time Warner Business Class. At any point, depending on how the ledgers are governed, anybody can use the bargaining power of the city or be added to the network. And long term, a beautiful utopian picture would be that everybody was connected. All government entities. We're currently working with the city. We have a city clerk. We're working with the courthouse, with phones, and there really aren't a lot of spots left except for the city. And the city's the one that, the term given to this, pre me coming in the door, was stop the bleeding, which was not repeated in this proposal. I would suggest that, give it some serious thought and consider the positive changes that making this move can make. And there's no doubt on the back end the savings will accumulate. To give you an idea, your AT&T bill, there's $900 being charged for a piece of equipment. So right away, $900 down, and that's a data piece. So that drops that proposal dollar $900 right there. So the money will come back, but you have to have faith in the solution.
I think the answer to your question is yes, but it would depend on what's in the water company's current contract, whether they can opt out of that or break it, or whether they're year to year, month to month, whatever they've got. But yeah, absolutely, they can come on.
If I may, the design of the network that's in place would incorporate any of your other industries that you would have, that you want to bring into it. It's fully scalable. So if we wanted to bring another water company at some point, or the police station when you move here, it's all capable of just adding more to it. It's just bringing it back into the network.
I think my other question was, and it may not have anything to do with it, but would it have anything to do with our TV capabilities for broadcast for the city and county, or is that a different thing?
That's this network in the video portion.
Mm-hmm.
It's two different things.
Two different things, okay.
Yeah, this is, so with the business class service or government class service, you're guaranteed certain service levels.
Mhm.
So this is self-contained by itself, managed by itself, redundant to itself. And the coaxial piece or the video piece, the component of the BBC through two locations, two stops at every location, that's a separate issue.
I just wanted to ask that question.
Are you thinking channel insertion or something?
Yeah, I'm talking about what people watching us right now, if that would be improved any, but
Oh,
it's
yeah, for sure.
that would be,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Now, how, when you say improved, how do you mean?
Well, right now, so if you're talking about video communications, it goes up and back, right? And so right now, you have very limited bandwidth to carry information out. So by, is that what you?
I'm talking about TV.
I think she's talking about the public access
You're live,
channel.
public
Sorry,
access.
I thought you were talking about actually transmitting.
That's probably my
She's talking
fault,
about the
I
public-
No, it wouldn't
apologize.
affect it at all. No.
Wouldn't affect it at all, total different entity, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's
When-
okay, I probably didn't make myself clear. I
When the
apologize.
police department is complete, is there going to be an added expense for setting them up, or is that included in this?
No, you'll see on there's a page titled construction costs at the very bottom. I think it's grayed out at the moment. It's got a cost to build. That's an estimate. And you know, it could change as time moves on. What time owner does when they look at a piece of property and they want to invest in it, we do what's called a site survey. It's aerial. And so we have a third-party company that looks at that, decides what they think the cost would be. So how close is the nearest access point to where I want to go? Sometimes the numbers are wrong. They're way too high, in which case we send out a person to go in the field on the foot and actually find out where the nearest access point is. So the police station being in a brand-new location kind of trims up our responsibility. Most of that stuff will be taken care of as a build-out before we ever get there, before they're ever there. That'll be covered. Any other city entity that wanted to bring fiber in, we would cover those expenses as well. They look at it as they want a tiny margin because we really do believe in the customer's best interest. We're very slow and steady. We eat the elephant one at a time. We don't just throw out numbers. We take our time. If the business runs away, it does. And we try to do things right, the first time.
So the first thing you're going to do is do the build-outs, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. Construction, most of these buildings are on net. You'll see costs associated. Those are, again, fiber costs. So right now, everybody in the city has access to Time Warner business class service. No construction needed. The idea would be to turn up the network as quickly as possible. One of the caveats is that you guys have control, or the city IT people have control over what's going to roll up. What are we going to turn on next? Because resources are limited from an IT perspective for the city. And so we'll be right there hand in hand, turning up one circuit at a time until the whole network is up and running. At the same time, we'll deploy our equipment. We will start to manage the routers, and the cable piece will come as well. And it all depends on how you guys want to handle the transition of the network. But one of the biggest concerns was we're way understaffed to do all this at one time, and we understand that. So from start to finish, to get this network in place on the coaxial cable side, not the one piece of fiber coming into City Hall.
Well, you have to do
Everything's on that.
Well, you have to do the city hall piece. You can't time together till city hall's in place.
Yeah, so you'd be looking at 45 days to potentially 90 days or even longer possibly for the fiber piece because of the timing with the weather. But I will say, the planning and zoning law saying fiber pipe we're presenting to the city, and it went in about 60 days.
So these costs in red, is that cost already incurred, or is that just accounting for, is that just?
No, these are proposed if we were to drop the final.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
The green one is the one that we're picking up for City Hall.
Okay.
You say in the cost proposal for the police department that there's a figure, but I don't see it.
The bottom of that same page?
Oh, it's in the proposal jacket on the very bottom. We came back at $20,000, which we believe is wrong. We think it's wrong. You guys have been out to the current location. It's right in the middle of a residential neighborhood that obviously has service. Usually a $20,000 bill is a long way away. So we're going to send somebody out.
It's only 3 blocks from here, too.
Yeah,
So-
true. Yeah, so it's just not that far.
Well, you're right next to the 911 station, too.
Yes.
So. So we're looking at 52 a year, according to this.
I think that's
my math
correct.
is right, yeah.
What's in the MO? 52 a year?
52 a year, something like that.
By the way, we waived all installation charges, and this pricing is the best the company has. This has come from senior level VP. It has actually been extended twice, and not to time the council meeting, but the pricing is good for a couple of days. And then we have to go back to back. And I will tell you, some things changed. The proposal did change last time we went and asked for pricing. Some of the caveats we wanted to include, we couldn't. Again, to use your term, stop the bleeding, I think that it's, council consider making that change. It would be a tremendous positive. And we look forward to the opportunity to earn business and being a long-term partner.
So you're saying that we have to approve this tonight in order to ensure what's in this proposal?
Or by Wednesday.
Or by Wednesday, right.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
I would say tonight would be good.
I would think.
It would be great. It would be a major, it would be the biggest leap forward that Georgetown has taken in its technology ever.
Ever?
Ever.
Well, then I want to make the motion that we accept this proposal.
Have a second on
No, not yet. Oh,
Marvin?
second, Marvin.
that? Any other questions?
The only concern I have is in the last 3 weeks, I've had several concerns from individuals about their, and I'm assuming it's their neighborhood Time Warner cable, lack of internet access. And this is obviously completely different. I mean, not even apples and oranges.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Apples and tuna fish. I mean, this is completely different. All right.
Now, we are the same company. We are the business
Right.
class division.
Right.
So we operate with different products, services, and systems.
Right.
But if you have any constituents that have concerns with their individual cable, we'll be glad to facilitate that.
Concern is them.
The concern is they can't get it.
The
concern is they can't get it.
Some of the neighborhoods.
Zero internet access. Zero internet access.
It's a franchise
So,
issue.
this-
It's
not huge,
yeah, it's a franchise issue.
Or you pay
So I
an
think-
arm and a leg to get it in.
Yeah, an arm and a leg.
So I don't want to move forward.
2 arms.
This is needed. I don't disagree with this at all, but I don't want maybe the public also to possibly see that we're accepting or looking to do something special with Time Warner Cable, and at the same time they're lacking that service in a different location for a different reason.
When does that cable franchise come back up, Andrew?
It's already come back up, and it has sort of gotten delayed again and again because of the various mergers that are in play. We negotiate that franchise on a regional level, and I've been advised by the regional body to not do anything at this point because they are trying to negotiate better terms on behalf of all the 16 or 17 cities and counties that are a part of that regional cable co-op.
Miss Ain.
Miss Ain, right, Miss Linda Ain, who, if anybody knows anything about cable franchise, it's her. So it will come back before this body for approval or otherwise I'm assuming in the next coming months,
So
2, 3
we would be,
months.
so all of us within that region, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but all of us within that region, every city would have the same sort of contract.
We
and
negotiate the same,
stipulations.
right, and we're renegotiating a
Why do we do that?
extension.
Why do we do that?
Get a better contract.
I think that was it, is the idea of getting more people, you get more influence.
Okay. Well, I just think, I mean, I've heard people on Main Street, for example, one in particular, Roy Cornett, was talking to me the other day about it. You know, the idea of a ring or some sort of, you know, pan place here within the downtown to be able to, you know, have a central Wi-Fi connection that everybody, at least within this business district, could use, and maybe even expand that out. And, you know, to me, you know, this is a growing city. There's a lot of people here, a lot of people who watch cable. Probably would be, you know, maybe in our interest to maybe negotiate on our own, simply because we are a growing community, and I think represent a lot more potential for Time Warner than the other cities within our region. But that's just a suggestion.
May I also add that I love Georgetown. I'm not just saying that, but I spend a lot of time in Georgetown. People are great. It's kind of slow, you know, I like that part of it. Calvin's, of course, lots of things I like about Georgetown. But anyway, the one thing that's missing at times is a piece of technology, not just here. I'm just talking about, like what you were talking about, in the city where other cities are starting to make those leaps. So that's a great idea.
Here's you said you would help with consumer relationships. There is a gentleman there that had business class, I thought he told me, and he was out for 5 days. So you all fall through on that. Thank you.
We do have a question
Okay.
we have a question from the crowd too, if that's all right, Mayor.
I have a couple questions, actually.
You need to come up to the mic
Come
so
in.
we can get you
Come in.
recorded.
Come introduce.
Thank you. Council members and Time Warner representatives, I have a question about the uptime and the lag time regarding the 4 hours when you're talking about EMS services, city, fire. That's one question. The other question is when you talked about the bandwidth itself, was I to understand that you were talking about 10 gigs, or what is the bandwidth?
Okay, well, currently at City Hall, they have 4.5 megabytes of bandwidth for all public personnel to access.
Okay.
Have DSL at a couple of the other city locations. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike. That is very limited in speed, very tough to do anything with. The thing that we're proposing is to bring in a guaranteed internet package, if you will, which is 20 megabytes, or 20 megs, but it's synchronous, so information can go out and in at the same time. This would be a primary access point to the internet.
Okay.
At each separate location, there's also some dedicated internet. So they're going to have a guaranteed rate of speed. Most of them are 15 down and 5 megabytes up, which will support VoIP, which is the plan there. So that conduit, that private conduit can carry voice traffic. And there's one that's 35 by 5. So the improvement in internet speeds is drastic, and all those being business class service, government class service are monitored. And to answer your question on how long it takes to repair, should there be any worries, since we're proactively monitoring this with managed router, downtime should be extremely minimal, especially compared to what the city's been going through, which I understand this has been a process for a long, long time, and I know the city's made some great improvements to the network.
So is that like in a service contract, the amount of downtime?
Service
Okay.
level agreement.
Okay. And one other question, as the city moves forward with their vision, they'll be uploading videos, perhaps, whatever. So as that bandwidth grows, there'll be a higher price cost to that. Is that correct?
If you were to try and add a new service and increase availability, there would
Okay,
be costs.
okay. And then visionary, really big, talking about the entire community, let's say using the lamp posts within the community, placing wireless access points in the lamp posts, working with the electric company to provide the community with wireless access. Is that a possible potential, and is that doable?
It is, I mean, we offer wireless access solutions now. Starts out with some database work, if you will, and a program that we can get into, and it involves people coming out and walking the area, finding the best places for the access points. This has actually been discussed, big picture for City Hall and the other buildings.
Well, I mean, for the actual community, I know it's done in Philadelphia, where it was an outstanding opportunity for the community members, folks about 250 feet out there could actually access. And so small businesses actually tied in as well, so your reduction in cost. It is, it's just really slick.
And that's something that the city should definitely work towards.
Great.
We can provide access points and internal configuration. I really can't speak to the fact of whether we
Well, that's
offer
down the
that.
road,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, that's a great idea.
Well, thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Look forward to a great association. Thank you.
Will you find out, Andrew, about the cable franchise? And I'll try to call you later on this week, but
Yeah,
talk
when it comes
about-
up for,
Yeah, when it comes up. I mean, it might be worth it for us to do it on our own. I mean,
well, for the record, I attended a meeting or two, and I asked that question. I'll ask it again. And the answer is yes. We can assert our right to individual provisions. The question is whether they will agree to it or not. And I certainly think it's worth doing it. The worst they can do is say no, right?
So we just approved this MO, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the franchise.
I know,
yeah.
but we just approved the MO.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I mean, we had Frontier Vision for a while, and then we went to Time Warner. But I mean, at least my argument being that, there is more than one internet, cable provider out there. And, it's, I think there's a possibility of at least trying to.
I don't
say,
know that
this is
there
a
is
growing
anymore.
Yeah, well, but I mean, at least try to get some sort of, some sort of concessions as far as, or just work with us. I mean, we try to be as good a cover customer as possible.
We specifically,
community.
matter of fact, I went to the meeting and I asserted the fact that we have a couple neighborhoods that, as a result of the phasing that they're doing, are not getting service simply because of the sort of the lawful way that they were laid out. They would otherwise be entitled to that, and it's a sort of it's a contractual provision. And I said, can we get some clarity on that so that these people who are, 100 feet off of a main highway aren't considered rural? And I specifically asked, and they are working on some negotiation on that. So, but as far as other things, yeah, I mean, come up with what you want and I'll present it.
Okay, 911.
Before we get started, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the work done by my employees last Tuesday during the multiple incidents that occurred in town. We had a pretty serious accident that occurred and the multiple storms that came through, and they went above and beyond. They were overwhelmed at points, but they did a fantastic job, and I just wanted to acknowledge them publicly for their work.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a
And
hard
them.
day.
That needed to be done.
Thank you. With that in mind, I'm very happy to tell you that I'm going to put a little over $35,000 back into the city budget with a grant. We had put it in my budget to purchase this recorder. I was working the back end to try to get this grant and applied for it after the budget was approved. We have been accepted by the CMRS budget to pay for the entire cost of this recorder, so it is not a matching grant. It is 100% money that we will get to pay for this.
Great.
Motion.
Awesome.
Do better than that.
You don't want to argue a little bit?
No.
Can't argue free money.
Got a motion by Kelly, second by Marvin.
All in favor, aye?
Aye. Yeah.
Opposed?
Good job.
Good.
Thank y'all very
Make
much.
sure we get that approved before it goes away. Thank you. Mr. Engineer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The MO in front of you is regarding the demolition. We received 3 bidders for the demolition of the buildings in the City Hall parking lot. The estimated budget was $150,000. It came in at $133,000. This includes hazardous material inspection and removal. So lead, asbestos, and any others that they find. Are there any questions?
Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Brad, second vote. Any questions? $17,000 under budget.
How soon do you think you'll get started on this, in the springtime maybe, or?
No. 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks, actually.
Is everybody out?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I got the keys.
Still working on it, all right?
They will be in 2 weeks.
I knew they were.
They will be
still
in 2 weeks.
working on it, all
We
right?
got the keys.
If
Oh,
the
we got
mayor-
all the keys on Sunday.
If the mayor can
That's
sign the
Monday.
contract tomorrow morning, they're going to get started.
Wow.
It's, I think they estimate 14 days for lead and asbestos inspections / abatement. The only thing that might hold this up a little bit is Columbia Gas. They gave me 30 days to disconnect for demolition, but I don't know.
We'll lean
find
on them
some
a
way to
little bit.
convince them.
Might come in
They'll
off, but they
come
can't
through for us.
refuse.
They'll come through.
They'll come through.
Hey, Mayor, this is a pretty positive thing. I think it's probably going to be pretty unanimous, obviously, but I want to thank Andrew and certainly you and Kyle and all those that worked on this. And we need to thank the fiscal court and their level
Absolutely.
of cooperation as well.
This
It's big.
The united front there on that.
That's right.
Thank you.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you all.
Thank you, Kyle.
Take care of Columbia Gas. With the old service station went.
John, Mr. Chief, you are up.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Council, just come before you tonight. This is a project that we had included in our 14-15 budget. It's a replacement of the flat section of the roof out at Station 2 and the shingles section of the roof. We went out for bids on actually had a bid opening October the 2nd. We received 5 bids, and myself, Battalion Chief Mark Sutton, Stacy, and Kyle met, kind of reviewed the bids, and we just come before you seek your approval to award the bid to Pierce Blackmer Roofing for $34,630. We had budgeted $40,000 for the project.
Make a motion.
Motion?
Second.
What do you want? Any questions? Another savings.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
I don't guess it experienced any hail damage this past week.
Nice.
Would that not be appropriate?
It's good.
I haven't seen any. I mean,
Well, it's hard to see sometimes.
This is on this.
Morgan Mill, Station
Yeah,
2.
we didn't get as big a hail out there as they did on the
Okay.
other side of town.
Well, it wouldn't be hard to find somebody to give you an estimate.
Yeah, I don't think
That's
it's.
true.
You know, it's probably a good thing that we got the estimates before the damage,
is,
because
right.
the
It
price
is.
probably would have gone up, so.
Where's
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Good job, John.
Mayor, I got 2 quick announcements.
Where's
if I
Pierce?
could.
Go ahead.
Yeah. John, I was just going to ask where
Yes.
Pierce Blackmer's out of.
Lexington.
Lexington.
Just a quick reminder, our fire prevention parade is this Thursday. Want to invite everyone out. We'll line up at 6, be heading out down Main Street and towards 7 o'clock. So we'll offer the invitation out to you all. And another quick announcement, we're really excited. Our new platform has, it's in the process of, it's left the factory. We've actually had it. I don't know if any of y'all went to the chili cook-off. Had it on display. Right now it's in northern Kentucky, getting at our dealer, getting striped up. So next 3 days we're supposed to get training on it. And by the 24th, we're looking at having a ceremony at Station 3 to kind of display the truck. And like I said, you all ought to be excited as well because you're all the one that give us the authority to get it. So you ought to be proud of it. It's a nice looking truck and it's going to serve the city really good and be very, productive for the city.
When did you say the service or the?
Ceremony will be October the 24th at 1 o'clock. It'll be at Station 3 on Airport Road. So, thank you all.
Thank you,
With
Chief.
that, you got to go.
Thanks.
Megan?
At the end of this month, I'll have been here working for the city for 3 years. And it's been a really nice 3 years. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And when I first got here, I remember that several people made mention of the fact that perhaps it would behoove the city to look at becoming partially self-insured with our medical insurance. And it wasn't something that I wanted to jump into very quickly, and I don't think council would have probably wanted to jump into that very quickly either. But I appreciate the fact that council has been very open to change, especially this council, and the change that we made last year by going to a contingent premium. And by doing that, you've actually voted to use a plan that did save the city a considerable amount of money last year. So the first good news I'd like to talk about is the fact that last year we went on a 9102 contingent premium. We set aside $221,000 in an account that we could possibly keep if our numbers ran really, really well, or we could stand to lose that plus an extra 2% if we did not run really well. So we have been running well, and at current time we stand to keep $162,000 of that money that would have been paid in premium had we not done that. So I think that's just a great accomplishment for our employees who are wise consumers with their health insurance, and to council for going out on a limb and trying a program we hadn't tried before. I hope you got excited about the news that you saw in the memo I provided for you in the packet. There are some good options on the tables for us this year, and both options are winners because both of them involve potential cost reductions, one of them very significant. So what Stacy just passed out to you kind of goes along with my memo. You see a comparison of the best and worst case scenario by us staying fully insured and operating under a contingent premium again. And then you also see the best and worst case scenario for us potentially becoming partially self-insured. As you can see, compared to the worst case scenario in the fully insured contingent premium plan, which we're on right now, if you compare that to the best case scenario of becoming partially self-insured, and we run really well, we could save as much as $354,000 roughly. Even if we hit the worst case scenario from where we are right now, it would only end up costing us $11,575. So all you have to really think about now is, does that risk outweigh the reward? I think the reward very far outweighs the risk, and it's something that I do wholeheartedly present to council and give you my blessing that I think it's a terrific idea for us to go to. I'd also like to point out at the bottom of the spreadsheet that you got handed, Stacy Clerk helped me figure out exactly what we budgeted for this year and what we had coming back to us. So we budgeted $1.555 million for the medical premium. We budgeted for a 10% increase, which we will not be experiencing, so that money does not need to be used. You can see what the employees contribute, and you can see what our subgroups contribute, and then you can see the contingent premium balance of $162,837 that is our money that we set aside last year. Now, I do want to put a caveat in there. The year is not finished, so that number could change. It could change for the better or worse, but for right now, we're putting it in at $162,837. So that comes to a grand total of $2.338 million, and we are budgeted, so that's exactly what we're budgeted at, and the worst case scenario, as you can see, is under that amount by $93,000. So we are budgeted well in excess to cover becoming partially self-insured if that's what you so desire to do this year.
Now, does becoming self-insured, does it change anything that the employees do or go through or any of that type of thing?
It doesn't change anything at all for the employees.
Okay.
This is simply a different way for us to pay to be insured and to insure those employees.
What do? You put half the premium goes to the insurance company, half the premium stays with us, and then we pay out the claims.
I'll do my best to explain this to you. It's going to be in very simple terms. If you'd like it in more technical terms, Neace Lukens is here to do that for you. But the way I try to look at this is we insure ourselves with a specific stop loss for each employee. So if you, Mark Singer, had a catastrophic event, we would be paying for your claims for the first $75,000 of that. But once you hit $75,000, we're insured for the rest of your claims. So we're not going to be paying any more of it. As a group, we are going to pay to have aggregate stop-loss insurance. So as a group, when we hit $1 million in claims, we are then insured past that. So the premiums that we pay are no longer to be fully insured. It's now to be partially insured with some stop-loss coverage. We pay some administration fees and some taxes, and then the only other thing we pay are our very own claims.
So we do
Is that
pay,
an explanation?
so we do pay our claims out of our own pool
We
of
do
money.
pay our own claims. And the reason why we feel that it's very safe to do that is because over the past 3 to 5 years, the city has been running at or even below, sometimes 70%. So what that means is for every $100 we've spent in premium, only $70 of that has been spent on actual claims. So that goes to show you that there's an extra $30, an extra 30% out there that goes to the insurance company. And now, mind you, they have to pay for Affordable Care Act fees, they have to pay administrative fees, they have to pay taxes. But after they've done that, that's just profit for them. So we stand to keep more of that.
Simply buying reinsurance on the stop-loss insurance, or reinsurance on the,
I think we call it that.
yeah, reinsurance.
Megan, is this just is it a 1-year commitment, or do you have to commit for a longer period of time?
It's a 1-year commitment. I've heard that once you commit to it, it can sometimes be so lovely that you don't want to go back. But sometimes it can just be that it can be difficult to go back. But Neace Lukens has provided me with information that we can use to start through the year if you decide to do this, and maybe halfway through start deciding if it's lucrative or not.
Yeah.
If it's not, then there are ways to start preparing for the next year, just in case you need to get back into being fully insured.
Right.
But if history predicts our success, then our last 3 to 5 years of claims should say that we will see savings.
Yeah. I've got some experience with it. My employer is self-insured, and I certainly can't tell you all the details of it. But it's almost as if, I don't want to say we're playing with house money, but with the savings that we had from the decision that we made last year, I mean, we're kind of in a win-win situation.
We are, and it's exactly why I asked for the contingent premium plan last year.
Yeah.
Because as you're going to hear in a second with a second proposal that I have on the agenda tonight, there are some things that we could do with that money other than just set it aside. I mean, obviously we can just set it aside, hold on to it, save it for the rainy day, the bad day that will come. Or there is a potential to invest some of it to actually try and get to some deeper savings by becoming partially self-insured. So I'll either explain that to you now if you'd rather hear it now, or I'll save it for afterward.
Will they go hand in hand?
They will go hand in hand. So I'll just go ahead and tell you about it.
Okay.
Toyota 2 Show and their insurance group, which is TAI Loyalty, is that right, Mike? They became interested in forming an on-site clinic here in Georgetown. So they also approached the city, and the county for that matter, close to 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. They wanted an on-site clinic for employees to be able to go to, and the benefit of the clinic is when your employees will go there, your employees and their dependents actually, they can be seen for a zero copay on the visit and a zero copay on their prescriptions. And the reason that was not as well suited for us when we were fully insured, but is now that we're partially self-insured, is because the cost of those visits are well below market value. We pay a per member per month charge to be part of it, and then we extend that opportunity to our employees and their families. And the hope will be that that reduces the cost of the claims that are run through our insurance. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So Toyota 2 Show already went through all the legwork. The clinic is
Up and running.
going and running, and from what I understand, it is successful. They have seen some return on their investment. I invited all of you to see the clinic if you wanted, and that offer still stands. But it is over beside Walmart. It's called Balanced Care. Is that correct? And by us joining, they can offer additional hours in the clinic because we bring a large employee base to that group. And then they're motivated to continue to try to find groups that want to join, so that eventually they may be able to have a 6-day-a-week clinic that's staffed from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or maybe even some evening hours. It's all just a joint effort to try to get us all in one large group, paying these per member per month fees to hopefully reduce all of our claims.
Megan, if you choose that option, are your employees obligated to go there, or do they still have the choice?
They always have the choice.
Right.
Some companies or organizations will decide to charge a higher copay if you go to a private institution versus a free copay or free visit if you
Right.
go to the clinic, to try to give more of an incentive to go. But I think initially starting out, just the free versus the copay at all
Right.
would probably incentivize our employees quite well to go there.
Where would the prescriptions be obtained?
In the clinic.
Right there.
In the clinic. What they do, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, they look at our most frequently used drugs, and they stock the clinic with those drugs. And so as our employees go in and they need their regular blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, that's what can be picked up there. The really unusual prescriptions for the really brand new, name brand, unusual prescriptions, those won't be there, of course. So they can write you a prescription to take elsewhere with you and have filled.
And you make an appointment, the 20-minute block?
Yes, they block off 20-minute appointments, so you have 3 every hour, and you can go online, block off those appointments. That's your 20 minutes. So you show up at your time, you get on in there, and you leave at the end of your time. And, you know, it significantly decreases the wait time that employees will have for a doctor. It significantly decreases the time that employees will have to spend away from work because they're waiting on a doctor.
Or they can call and
Mhm.
schedule an appointment as well.
Yeah. So as you can see, it goes very hand in hand with becoming partially self-insured. And that's why I've purposefully kind of held the clinic off another year, because I wanted to see exactly how we did with the contingent premium. And as you can see with the $162,000 we stand to keep there, the rough estimate on what we would have to pay in the per member per month charge to join the clinic was approximately $73.5. So a little less than half of that would need to go back into buying into the clinic if you decided you wanted to do that.
I did go look at the clinic the other day. I met Mike over there, and it's nice, and it was set up nice, and they can perform anything there. And the doctor, I think she's out of Lexington, but she's a 20-year veteran. She's a doctor. There's a lot of positive things to it. And the other thing is that it is a choice, that you can go online or you can call. And I think the other part of the cost savings, if so worked with, is like when the employee makes the appointment, they leave work, they go to the clinic, they're seen there, they get their medication there, they leave and they come back to work. They don't have to run to get the medication unless they choose to do that. You can still use a pharmacy if you want to.
Still choices.
It's still a choice. And it was very nice.
One huge advantage is getting that 20-minute block.
Yeah.
Not having to wait
Having to
and
find
wait
time.
and wait.
Yes.
That's a big advantage that they promoted. You know, it's a workplace clinic, so they want to help you increase your efficiency of your workers. So they help you get them in and get them out and back on the job. They could also take care of our occupational charges if we wanted them to. We could start sending all of our drug screens there, pre-employment randoms, what have you, if we so desired. And as it grows, as more people start to participate, that is going to mean there's more equipment that they can buy. For example, they can buy the hearing booth so that they can start doing hearing tests for our employees. They can perhaps staff an occupational specialized physician so that they can deal with all of our workers' compensation claims in a more specialized setting. There's just a lot that can be added to the clinic with growth, but obviously they need people to pair with to do this. And I think we're poised in a perfect position to become partners with them, especially since Toyota Tushio's already done all the legwork, and the clinic's just sitting there ready for us to join. That's true.
I had a couple questions in no particular order.
Okay.
The sheet that you had in our packet,
Mhm.
I don't know if you had it with you.
I do.
The very bottom paragraph
Mhm.
that starts at, "It should council decide not to move." So if we don't do anything at all,
Mhm.
we got several options to choose from,
You do.
I guess.
Mhm.
And I guess with you being, or you have been working on this obviously for quite a bit of time, and I'm sure
Yes.
others have been a part of that too.
Yes. When Neace Lukens started presenting these numbers to me, I immediately involved Stacy so that we could talk about how their numbers compared to what was budgeted, and so that she could be my numbers guru in making sure that we had double-checked all this just to make sure that what we thought we saw was so good was really so good. And yes, it is. And if you choose not to do anything in changing to becoming partially self-insured, we do stand to have a 0.5% decrease in the cost of our medical premium to remain fully insured with the contingent premium 9102.
What is your recommendation based on what you've seen and what you've been looking at over however many weeks or months you've been looking at this? What's your recommendation to us?
If I see the potential to save as much as $354,000 for the taxpayers, then yeah, that's definitely what I think. And in talking it over with the mayor, you know, his recommendation to me has always been try to keep the cost of our employees flat. I don't want to try and get them a raise and then raise their insurance rates. So we have been able to do that for the past 3 years. It's not raised, it's not changed at all. So that's accomplished. And then, you know, try to save us money. And I think that if we take that chance with the partially self-insured, and that the risk isn't that big, $11,575, which we have covered in the budget, and excess money we have already sitting in an account, I think the rewards very much outweigh the risk.
And the last question I have, knowing that now, what time frame are we looking at? I mean, is this something that has to be done tonight, or?
Well, what I'd like for you to tell me tonight is whether or not you would like for me to bring a municipal order to you in 2 weeks, with which one you'd like to go with. I'm thinking you're going to be telling me to come back with a municipal order giving us the permission to go ahead and seek the partially self-insured plan.
Our medical coverage is on calendar year.
Right, we'll renew for January 1.
I would ask that. That would be my request anyway.
Okay. And then my second question would be, do you feel that this is the time you'd like to include the clinic, or do you need time to think about that? What do you feel on the clinic?
I see no reason not to include. It's an option.
I think it's a good idea.
That's right. The employee still has an option whether they want to
They do.
go to the clinic or not.
And you know, honestly, we have a whole group of employees who come to work every day and earn an honest living, but they're still at poverty level. So by offering them the ability to seek medical care for them and their children and their spouses at zero copay, I think we'll have a healthier group of employees and families.
You said the buy-in was $72,000. Is that based on the number of people that we?
It's per member per month, so that's just
Okay.
drawn out over a 12-month period.
So it's not really a buy-in. It's more of a joining the club. So it's not something that we would get back if we pulled out or anything like that. You do. Okay.
We'll pay it on
Yeah.
a monthly basis, right, Mike? Oh, per employee per month.
So it could be an employee with 5 kids or an employee with
Right,
no
and
kids.
we just pay for
Okay.
that employee. That's right.
So is that then, to add on to Brad's question, that during open enrollment, is that when that employee would make that decision?
The employee doesn't have to make any decisions at all.
On the
If you
clinic
guys
part.
decide to elect it, we're going to elect it for all employees that are on our insurance plan. For example, I'm not. I use my husband's insurance, so I would not be privy to this clinic. But anyone who takes insurance with the city, medical insurance with the city, would be able to go and take their dependents. And you never have to make that choice. We will make it for you. We will offer it to you. We'll offer it to all of you. And then it's your choice whether you use it or not. In years ahead, if we feel like we need to incentivize our employees more strongly to use that clinic, if our medical claims start to climb and we want more employees to go to the clinic to help them come back down, perhaps we raise the copay in our medical insurance so that if you want to go see your own doctor, that's fine, but that's $30 and this one's free.
Right.
So those are just some tactics you can use to try and help make sure it's utilized as you want it to be.
So you wanted to come back with I think Megan and Stacy have done an outstanding job on this. I know you're always listening to cost savings, and that's what I told them, be sure and present that and do it with numbers.
That's right.
Do we need an MO for the cell?
For both of them.
An MO for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
An MO to approve becoming partially self-insured and an MO to join
The clinic.
the Balanced Care Near-Site Clinic.
Sure.
Proceed.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you. That's not all I have, actually.
Y'all can speak if you totally.
Okay, you're
In here anyway.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks for sitting through it all for us.
just made their presentation?
That was your moral support back there.
They were ready
Good
just to
job.
identify the fault.
Good job. Okay. Now, number C.
It's an MO approving job description.
Yeah, they can just approve it.
Oh, okay.
Job description.
All right, there are 3 MOs coming up. One is to approve the human resources job description. That's first on the agenda.
Just need a motion?
Yeah.
Motion.
Just need a motion. Need a second.
Second.
Hang on, Kelly. Okay.
Discussion.
No.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Move on to D. Municipal order approving financial legal specialist job description.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. MO approving sanitation worker, driver, and crew leader. Public Works, the crew leader. Motion?
Make a motion, Mayor.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Discussion?
Maybe.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Oh, well,
Oh, there you go.
There's 3
Give me the opposes.
5-3.
Now we know what the problem
Okay.
was.
Very
It
good.
wasn't the first.
All right.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
we already,
Why did
we
we not do,
officially did
why
it
did
that
we do
time.
the ordinance? And municipal order instead of ordinance? Is there, haven't in the past, haven't we done this by ordinance?
Job descriptions?
With-
Maybe,
Traditionally done the personnel ordinance, obviously by ordinance, and
Yeah.
job descriptions by municipal.
Okay, all right.
Captain Swanigan, you're front and center.
Nothing to report. Chief Bossy's off today. I'm sitting in his absence. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to try to answer them for you.
Was it busy last week, wasn't it?
Very trying week for all emergency services. Jim said it well. In addition to this,
All of our emergency services did an outstanding job on a very, very bad week in Georgetown.
absolutely.
Yes.
We're working with dispatch to get them any kind of aftercare or counseling they may need to deal with some of the things we had to deal with. But we always do that, and we'll continue to do that.
Super safe.
Awfully proud of the job you guys do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, council, comments? Motion for adjournment.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey, Brad.
Thank you, folks. Have a good evening. Thank you guys for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
So glad to have you aboard.
Well, that.